You ready to go, Carmen? Anytime you're ready.
He explained it all to me.
Okay.
and it was interesting.
Okay.
But I don't have it.
I don't know how stuck you are on starting at 6 p.m. sharp.
It just turned 6 o'clock.
Do I have to call the meeting to order? All right. All right. Good evening. I'm now convening the Planning Committee meeting of Monday, March 9th, 2026 to order. So we have everybody here in attendance on the committee, which is Christina West and Amy Michael and myself. So we have a heavy agenda tonight. So for those of you in the audience, you really came to a good one. So the first thing that we have on the agenda is the National League of Women Voters. So I want to talk a little bit about this before we have Mr. Trevor Martin, who traveled all the way from Columbus to present this information to us. Ravenna, as we all know, we have these wards set up in these precincts, which hasn't been reviewed in well over 50 years. And so what has happened, especially in Ward 3, is that since those lines were drawn, Anavar was built, I would say a majority of Diamond Hills since that time. So it's significantly disproportionate to the rest of the city. And so why this is important and why the League of Women Voters is involved is because it is important as representatives, especially for the ward council people, that there's more of an equitable distribution of people that they represent. It wouldn't be fair for 2 ward council people where one person is representing 1,000 people and somebody else is representing 3,000, because there's considerable more work and more feedback and engagement with the community. So I'll leave you with that, and then Mr. Martin, if you could come to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Seaman, President Kairos, Chair Lodato, thank you. Distinguished members of the Ravenna City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. My name is Trevor Martin. I am a program coordinator for the League of Women Voters of Ohio. For over 100 years, the League has been a nonpartisan grassroots organization that believes voters should play a critical role in democracy, and that is why we advocate for fair redistricting at the state and local level. Beginning in early 2021, I traveled throughout the state to inform and educate citizens about the redistricting process. I've met with many diverse groups of Ohioans, from block clubs and neighborhood associations, government officials to churches, reporters, and civic organizations. In coordination with our larger coalition, I've hosted dozens of trainings, both in person and online, teaching hundreds of Ohioans to use open source mapping software to read, analyze, and create proposed district maps. Much of the League's redistricting work focuses on identifying communities of interest, which are groups of people who share common economic, environmental, social, and policy needs. It is a best practice to try and keep such communities together, and our community mapping program helps us understand how everyday Ohioans identify and define their communities, and therefore how they believe district lines should be drawn. Just over a year ago, I and representing our state league, worked with our local league up in Cleveland and other communities, other community members in the city of Cleveland to help read, analyze, edit, and submit proposed maps for their city council redistricting process. More recently, I worked with the city of Nelsonville in Athens County to lead a public process in designing a ward map based on community input, hosting a series of public town hall events that provided an overview of statutory requirements, mapping goals, and expectations for the ward creation process. The League facilitated discussions on community identity, map drawing constraints, and what matters most to residents. Then we provided public opportunities for interactive map drawing, open discussion, and feedback on the maps drafted by the community. The proposal was presented, an ordinance was drafted, and new citizen maps now await adoption by their city council. In every testimony, whether state or local, we emphasize that the citizens deserve a transparent redistricting process that includes ample time for meaningful public input and feedback. I'm here today requesting that the city adopt such a process while addressing the issue of malapportionment in Ravenna City Council wards. After each decennial census, municipalities routinely must redistrict city wards to comply with local, state, and federal laws. Malapportionment is when wards have substantially different total populations, which violates both federal and state law. As populations shift over time, wards naturally fall out of compliance, which is revealed during that decennial census. States use the decennial census data to ensure districts have equal population. These population counts are calculated based on the total number of people in each state, including citizens, non-citizens, children, and others not eligible to vote. In a series of cases starting in 1962, the Supreme Court of the United States has ruled that state and local districts must be substantially equal, and it has become generally accepted that the population difference between the largest and the smallest districts, i.e. the total deviation, may not be more than 10% of the average district population. Having not done reapportionment since I believe 1972, the city of Ravenna appears to have a total deviation of about 62%. Ravenna now has a rare opportunity for fair, voter-focused wards. The process for achieving this can be and should be done with ample opportunity for citizen input, with full transparency, and with the goal of prioritizing what's best for voters. Providing for better transparency and more community input now will result in a better process with better outcomes later, ultimately making for a stronger, more representative government for the people of Ravenna. Thank you again for taking the time to hear from us. We acknowledge and appreciate your work that you do in the service to your community, and we are here to help and to offer any assistance we can to the council and the people of Ravenna. Thank you. I'll take any questions you have there.
Thank you, Trevor. I wanted to clarify something in one of the handouts you gave us. So according to the Ohio Revised Code, section 731.06, the city is out of compliance, correct?
Correct.
Was there a notification sent from state officials regarding the noncompliance?
Most likely not non-compliance. It appears that, Ravenna, I must say, is not the only community that has fallen behind on redistricting and reapportionment. There's a number of communities throughout the state that have gone, a couple of decades or more without doing any kind of redistricting. So it's kind of fallen under the radar. And so we're trying to bring that attention to both the Secretary of State and our communities. However, the Secretary of State does send out an advisory after each decennial census. And that went out on September 16th of 2021. And those go out to the boards of elections, and the boards of elections should notify municipalities of requirements and the needs that these new data, the numbers from the census requires from city and county.
Do you have a recommendation then to start for the redistricting? You've been working with this, and I remember in talking with one of your partners that you guys kind of have this already started. So if we need to do this, obviously, to be in line with the Ohio Revised Code. I see the average down here is 2,831. So is that what you would be looking at per ward, give or take a number? Because I was dividing the total by 4, and that's basically the same what you came up with. Is that kind of the number that you're looking at as far as, and then where to start with that? Because right now it's like a cut across square, 1, 2, 3, 4. So how would you make that different? I mean, have you already thought about how we could go forward with this?
Well, there are multiple options. And that's why we'd like to bring it to the community to actually talk to the folks who will be most, affected by these changes. It is, right now, the way the city is made up, it is that, nice, pretty quadrant, and maybe
Yeah.
it stayed there for a while because it is so nice, and maybe you have other services connected to quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. But as we've determined, these populations have fallen out of balance. So it really is just a matter. There's open source mapping software. There's plenty of programs. Some of these are free, like Dave's Redistricting
That's what
app
I'm looking
is
at that now.
free and an open source application. In fact, majority of states use that for redistricting in the country. The state of Ohio used Dave's Redistricting to provide map analysis for the people of Ohio during their congressional and state legislative mappings. So it really would be just a matter of tinkering with some census blocks. That is you have your precincts, and then the lowest, the kind of smallest building block for redistricting is that census block, which basically is essentially a city block. And so you'll be able to tell you'll be able to tell how many residents are in each city block, and you'll try to get that number. As you said, that the 2831 is the ideal number, but again, our goal is not to get a 0% deviation. That would be wonderful, but our focus is on community first and foremost is the community, and so we want to keep neighborhoods and folks that have similar interests together. We don't want to do a lot of disruption. A lot of times precincts are tied to certain polling locations, and some people may have been voting in the same polling location for decades. We don't want to disrupt their voting habits and
Yeah.
things like that. We want to do as minimal change as we can, kind of adhering to current lines, but just the goal is to get it under that 10%. Between the lowest and the highest. So a kind of guiding star is plus or minus 5% in each ward. That way, when the map's complete, you're underneath that 10%.
Is it okay for questions?
Yeah, I just
Carmen?
wanted to point something out for the people in the audience because they don't have the same chart that we're looking at, although I'm happy to pass mine around. And Matt, I hate to put you on the spot, but, this really disproportionately impacts you. So Matt Harper, our Ward 3 council person, in Ward 1, as far as that's concerned, he represents about 1,500 more people than anyone else. In Ward 2, about 600 people more than anyone else. And in Ward 4, about 1,800 more than anyone else. So when we're talking about this compliance issue, it's just, you've got a lot on your plate as far as who you represent. If you don't mind, Dr. Calfee, go ahead and ask your question. I'm going to go ahead and let everybody else take a look at this.
I just wanted to check to make sure that what I'm reading is correct, that the Ohio Revised Code wording on it is that they need to be substantially equal in population. The 10% that we're talking about is a figure, although generally accepted, is not required. And so variations in that are admissible and allowable depending on how we view substantially equal in population. Just wanted to check on that.
Yes, that's correct, sir. There has been a number of cases that have worked their way through the Supreme Court, and the 10% rule was first established with Brown v. Thompson in 1983. There's been a number of cases since then that have come to the court, some deviations being much more than 10%. Others being below 10%, but there's been cases that were decided on that 10% case, on that 10% number. There have been a few cases that we're able to provide circumstantial evidence to where a deviation over 10% was warranted. Sometimes that maybe have to do with the geography of the city or just the way county lines are drawn sometimes, so you're kind of restricted by other criteria to that.
And it appears that some of those factors, like geographical areas, neighborhood type considerations, can be factors in our reapportionment. It appears that when we talk about best practices for local redistricting, it includes letting people look at the community, the historical areas, et cetera, while trying to make them equal also. So, okay, lots of work to do on that.
I have a few questions. So, and I'm more concerned about the process here. Is it, we ask you to give us some options, some variations that would make us more in line, and then we kind of mull them over and see which ones we like? Or is it our responsibility to go to the GIS programs and kind of try to map things out as best we can?
Well, let me make this clear. The decision rests completely with the council.
I understand that.
The council can hire outside sources, consultants that could work with GIS. There's plenty of professors. There's a professor over at Kent State University, Jennifer Mapes, that has expressed interest in working with the city, possibly free of charge. We do that as well. We are working with the City of Alliance. We're working with the City of Warren. As I said, I worked with the City of Nelsonville to draw up and propose their city ward maps. We're also working in Struthers. However, they have an outside consultant, Mr. Bralich, who was the GIS professor over at Youngstown State University, working with them. And then there's like I said, it ultimately comes down to the council, but then there's variations of how that decision can be made. In some instances, the council will come together as a whole council and make decisions. Other times it'll run through a committee, sometimes an already standing committee like legislative or planning. Other times there'll be an ad hoc committee that will be established specifically to focus on the redistricting issue and then disband after that's complete. An alliance, just last week, there was a resolution passed to establish a committee with council members, the mayor, and 4 citizen residents, 1 from each ward. So there's a multitude of variations on how to draw the maps. What we suggest, what we would recommend, and we would hope that the council would go forward with, is whatever you do, is host public meetings, and before any kind of mapping is drafted, to get some feedback from citizens, possibly give them a couple options on where changes could take place. For example, over in Warren, we're kind of just opening it up to the community. So we're going to be hosting public meetings in each of their 7 wards. They have 7 wards in Warren. We will host a public meeting in each one of those wards running through the end of March and through April. And we will talk to community members. For example, we'll go to Ward 1. We'll have the map of Ward 1, and we'll say, hey, we need to find another 400 people. So where do you want to go? Like, which neighborhoods do you want to branch out into? Which do you feel most and connected to? We'll do that in each ward. Some will have to lose some census blocks. Others will have to gain. But we'll do that in each of the wards, and we'll come together with council members and kind of go through the suggestions and options that were presented, and kind of put together a holistic map that takes in most consideration from the public.
So I can think of one thing that would be affected possibly, if anything, would be from the building departments, how they apply for grants, if it's by wards, and if there's a certain ward that the poverty level is higher, and if you end up adding, other areas, would that affect that, the
No,
grants?
The Census Bureau has drawn their own boundaries.
Okay,
Our wards mean nothing to Census Bureau.
okay, I wasn't sure, that's why I wanted to ask.
So I think one decision we might want to make soon is whether we want a separate committee to work on this.
Yes, actually, I have that written down where I like that idea of
Yeah.
forming an ad hoc committee to get rolling with this, because ultimately, this is just equity and representation.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's to be over 60% out of the deviation. I mean, I wouldn't feel the same way if he said, it's, 12%, 15%, even 20%, but to be this far
Yeah,
is,
we have to do something, there's no doubt.
and
So
there's
I-
been a lot that's happened in Ravenna. There's been a lot of population, like, redistributed with the different housing since this was last done, so it makes sense.
The one last question I have is, at the end of this process, we're going to have people who are going to be reassigned to different wards. Is there a systematic process? Is it up to the city to notify people? Does the Board of Elections reach out to people? How does that process work? Because I find that the most inconvenient part of the process is people now have to know where to go to vote, or
Yeah.
some people.
Yeah. The Board of Elections should, they will be doing that, they'll send out notices. But I encourage the city to
Right.
do so as well. And, our local league, I'm sure, we will be out educating folks as well, because that's what we do. We want folks to understand, where their polling locations are, what wards that they belong to, and who the representatives are. So we'll most definitely help with that. And I did want to just say one other thing, also, according to revised code, whatever new maps need to be voted on through ordinance and established 150 days before your next municipal primary. So you have some time, So that I believe that would be December 5th with the May 4th primary in 2027. 150 days before that would be December 5th. I believe that's the deadline. So we have a good amount of time, to get this out in front of the residents.
I agree, and, thank you very much for coming up and putting together this presentation. And I think there's a lot of people sitting up here that are very data-driven. So we really appreciate the breakdown of numbers and percentages. So honestly, I would like to expeditiously at least move forward with the resolution, if we could get one to form an ad hoc committee about redistricting.
I'm good with that.
I am as well, absolutely.
Thank you for your support. Thanks again. Does anybody from the audience have any questions, comments, or concerns on this issue? It's been a long time. Got to dust the cobwebs off this issue here, so.
I did want to say we do have some members of our local League of Women Voters of Kent, and we actually have a lot of members up here in Portage County. Kent is our strongest and most active, and we appreciate everything that they do. But we also have Northern Portage and Hudson, and so we have a lot of members who are more than willing to help out with notifying, educating citizens, and possibly helping out with any kind of public meetings or
Be great.
notifications you need. So I appreciate you. Thank you for having me, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak to you.
Drive
And,
safe.
and
Happy
thank you,
Columbus.
Ravenna.
Thank you out there for passing that around so other people could take a look at it. So next, I always do this when I'm up here, I shuffle so many papers around.
Carmen, before you go on to the next thing, on this issue with the establishment of a committee to work on this, there are several other questions that I have about, for example, what was the variance when we set the districts in 1972? What variance did we have at that time historically? And so, and some other questions like that. Will there be a mechanism for us to get those questions to the committee?
I would think that those would be things that we would discuss in that committee and explore before bringing it to the public, so we would have that available
Okay.
to present to people.
Okay.
And I'm all in favor of having as much information as possible in the history behind that. So Chelsea, you might be going on a treasure hunt. I can imagine what it's going to be like to try to find the archival information.
Yeah. The other confounding factor is we've lost population of about 1,500 during that time period. And so that complicates things because we did not lose that population evenly across the 4 wards. So that's another way to look at it. Okay, thank you.
Also,
No more
Mark Bowen,
questions.
Mark Bowen would be a great
Oh, yeah.
knowledge on that. He was around shortly after that, so I'm sure he would have the information or find it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Definitely. So I'm excited. So I think it's, anytime we have an opportunity to take on a project like this and better represent our community, I'm all for it. And especially, I'm all for transparency and community input too. Thank you. All right, so the next item, another heavy one here, is the comprehensive plan. And Mr. Todd Peets is here. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hey, Todd.
So
knows?
I thought I asked Rob about my 2-hour presentation. He said no. And I have a 10-minute or 5-minute, and basically the response was, this is really an opportunity for you to ask me questions. I can give you a quick overview if you want, or you can just start firing questions at me, and I'm glad to answer them.
It might be helpful to note that there were some additions since you've gotten your binders, and they have been incorporated into what's on our website and on the interactive.
Yeah, I was notified that there was a concern about Sunbow Farms, that it was purchased after we basically completed our draft. And so we've added it to the city parks, we added it to the text of the city parks, we added it to the non-city property, and, not inside the city. And then also we added it to our story map. So we took care of all of those things, but this is still the time to make any additional changes if necessary. And by the way, it's a living document, so we can add changes anytime you guys see fit.
Well, you just took care of Post-it note number 3 for me, so thank you. I'm kind of old school with how I do this. So one of the biggest things for me with this master plan, and I know when I was on Planning Commission, it reads more like a vision statement than necessarily a plan. And I know that there's a lot of things I have, but I just really want to hone in on a few things because I really don't want to hold this plan up. Because I know that I spoke from that podium before I was elected to anything for a long time about how necessary and important that I think it is to have a comprehensive plan, especially when we have other bodies like the Planning Commission that are making decisions that are supposed to be contingent on something like this. So if I had to pick a number one thing, it would be that to add some commentary on outlining specific zoning reforms. And so one of the things is we have this existing land use map, which I think I said before looks like somebody threw a bunch of Skittles at the map about where these, all these different uses are. But then this is our future land use map. And I just don't think that it's very clear in this plan, and there's really no regulatory proposals on how we're gonna get from this to this. And just other small problems, like there's no R1 and R6 outlined. So if there's nothing else comes from this discussion, to me, that is the number one problem, because we would like to implement this, and a lot of the things that, the goals that are in the plan are pretty much contingent on there being regulatory changes, but there's not anything in the plan that outlines those things.
Well, okay, so those are good comments. The R1, R6 is in your zoning code, and those have never had a map identified. You know, R1 and R6 are two different zoning districts that have never made it onto the map. And that's something that happened not because of the comp plan, because it's just been that way. It's like a holding pattern in case a development comes up that does meet the R1 or R6 category, to be determined at some future date. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I agree about implementation. The plan's worthless without implementing it. You got to be able to implement a plan. It is vague, and it was purposely done so. I know that's maybe frustrating for some, but it was purposely done so because, number one, I want the, you know, when I say I, the steering committee is also involved in this. The idea is we can't tie the council's hands with how you spend money. We aren't the ones who prioritize, which is you guys. You, the council, makes, sets priorities for what you guys do. So we didn't want to tie our hands. I do agree with maybe a couple of your comments, Carmen, that it wasn't maybe as clear as it could have been in that getting the existing land use to that future land use. That requires some more in-depth digging with the community and the community's input. So you want to make sure, rather than just saying, hey, we want all this R1 and there's all this land use, not zoning, but land use that's not consistent, what you have to do is you have to sit down with maybe bite-sized chunks of the community and meet with those community members, those property owners, talk to them, explain to why the change is needed, why the change is wanted. And that way they provide input, you get their input, and then when you're making the change, they've already more or less bought in. I'm not saying they're all going to buy in, but more or less they bought in. If you just say not willy-nilly, if you just say, this is what our future land use looks like, this is what our zoning code and future or existing land use looks like, and you just say we're going to rezone everything to match the future land use, you're going to have a lot more people than are here tonight than just me, and they're not going to be happy people. So the last thing I want to do is sick the community on you with that. But what I can do is put implementation ideas in the objectives and strategies, saying that let the council decide where are problem areas. Maybe the planning commission recommends areas that are problem areas. Maybe Dobbs and his office can help with some of the problem areas based on variances and things like that with the BZA, and focus on them and then address those and then move on to another area. But you can't do it all at once per se unless you hired a consultant to do that, and it's going to be a big budget item to meet with all these different residents to try to make the perfect plan from that process. So I'm just saying that maybe it wasn't clear enough in the document to say that this is some of the steps you should do, and I can add those steps if that's what the council wants me to do. But again, back to Carmen's point, it's so true. You got to be able to implement the plan. It's a living document, so even as priorities change and technology changes and state funding changes and your funding changes, you have to be able to mold that, work with that plan to mold the existing conditions. There's also perceptions. The public wants this or wants that, so you have to kind of keep up with their perceptions of what they want. So there's all these reasons why you change and update a plan.
I would appreciate that being in there, the implementation for the zoning. Like it doesn't have to be so specific, but at least give a roadmap of what that's going to look like and how that's going to be done. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels about that, but I think it's going to be critical when we take this forward, to have that in the comprehensive master plan.
I can easily add a few extra strategies to some of the objectives that would basically say this is the process. We identify this area, whether it's the council, the planning commission, or the BZA or staff, and then you decide how you're going to proceed with that, whether that's a staff-driven or a RPC-driven or a consultant-driven project, and you get the right players in place, and you meet with the residents so they're all on board, at least know what's going on, so they don't feel like this is somebody picking on them for being industrial when they should be residential, And even in those cases, they're grandfathered in more than likely, and it'll take time for those to change back to residential if they are industrial or some other existing use that doesn't fit the future land use map. But again, there's got to be a process, and if that's not clearly stated, then I definitely can see us making those changes pretty quickly.
Well, and as this document goes through 2050, I mean, I don't know who's going to be sitting up here in 2050, but I mean, as this is a living document, it'd be nice to have that in there because that's what it's about. It's not about the people, it's about the process. So to have that there would be helpful, because if the zoning remains like it is now, this comprehensive plan is impossible to implement. So those regulatory changes need to happen. I wrote down identifying specific districts that should allow mixed use or high density being on there. But again, that's part of the master plan goal when we talk about housing and affordability and those, and they're great goals. And we want to see things like that. But we just currently, the way that our zoning exists, it wouldn't allow for those things the way that we need it to see that plan properly implemented. So there's that.
Let me just make a suggestion here. I mean, you've got information that you can update the plan and have it in place by our April meeting, early April?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I can, if anybody has, and I'm talking to the whole council, if anybody has questions or concerns or things they'd like me to look into for them as I
Yeah.
make these updates.
Well, that's what we're kind of doing. We're work shedding this right now. The other thing I wanted to mention in regard to this discussion is that the plan clearly describes the need to review our zoning code. And I think that's in a sense what you're getting at. And I think a lot of, and that could take a couple of years, by the way. I mean, that's a big process, and it hasn't been done in a very, very long time. So I would suggest piggybacking on this discussion, and it's already in the plan, so you don't have to make any changes, is that the city, once this plan is adopted, one of its first steps is to investigate putting together a plan to review our zoning code. And I think that might answer some of your questions.
Just brought me to Post-it note.
I am just trying to help out.
Okay, so one of the other things with the plan, and just to go along with what Rob's saying, I mean, and I know that's there, we're just looking for something that is a little bit more directional and less vague. And it has to do with the measurable outcomes of these things. And I say this as a person, and I know there's other grant writers out there. The timelines and measurable outcomes are also what is short-term, what is midterm, what is long-term. Because some of these things, like where we've identified fatal crash sites, I would like to have something a little bit more finite than short-term listing, because it helps with the accountability piece when we go to review it. Because if we go to review it and it says, well, that was a midterm plan, I don't know what that means. It has to be more quantifiable than short-term, midterm, long-term.
And again, that's something the council can decide. They can say this is a priority now and not a midterm. So you guys can move those dates around as you see fit. You know, like crash site data, as Bob would be aware of, you know, AMATS is the one that helps with crash site data, and they compile it, and they also provide solutions for it. So that's probably an ongoing thing, not just a short-term thing, so.
Right. Some of the things in there are identified as ongoing. So I know that. And I know that there was that crash that's been done, and that is an ongoing goal, by the way, that's in there. And I know that we have the map of all that data in the comprehensive master plan, but I think that some of these, what makes it a vision statement versus a goal per se, is that there's a lot of things about suggesting that we do things, and I think that we need to have, especially when it comes to life and death issues, that these are things that have hard deadlines and dates. And I guess as you're saying, this is something council can implement on that. That has to be done. Bob, would you have any suggestion on that?
I think Bob's already working on some of that currently.
Okay. I know that we talked about it at the one council meeting. I always feel bad putting anything else on your plate, because I know you got like 10 million things on there. But okay. So, like I said, I don't want to get caught up in the weeds tonight with some of the other things, and you already talked about this. But like I said, the number one thing was having to do with the regulatory changes so that we can implement this plan. because with that, it makes it something that we can actually do, something we can review. And maybe just council should, if you could take a look at some of these things maybe and put things that are more finite than short-term, mid-term, long-term goals, especially when it comes to citizen safety. But, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So you can definitely have the zoning
Yeah.
implementation guideline in before the next meeting.
And if there's anything else in there that you didn't mention tonight, just let me know.
Well, I know that we communicated about the dispensary, but that's something, again, last month, or the last meeting that we talked about this, that's something that council can revisit and amend, because my goal is to get this adopted as soon as possible. So,
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
What you got next?
okay, so the next thing here is a property request from David, I apologize, Fosnight. Did I say that correctly? So I'm counting on you to explain this to me because I'm struggling with why this is coming before council. And I understand that you want to build a garage.
Right.
And you're going to need the city to give you an easement or something in order for this construction project.
Well, well, I tore up my 2-hour presentation, so.
Oh. Did you do that when you came in and you looked at this? You're like, "Oh, forget it."
No, I'll be brief, but, so it's not without precedent. I'm gonna skip to, I don't know did they include
Yeah.
the little thing?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a fourth part to that, and maybe I'll go in reverse order. The fourth part is, it's not without precedent where the city abandoned a street. So dating myself, 40-plus years ago, I lived on Freedom Street, and fourth house from Lafayette, my lot went all the ways over to Maple, with the exception of a 50-foot wide strip that was approximately 60 feet deep. So there was a street that came into the back of my property. And back 40 years ago, there was a house, a historical house on Main Street where Taco Bell currently is, and it was going to be raised. And I worked with the Historical Society, and I was willing to move the house to the back of my property since I had a street there. And I worked with a company out of Cleveland that we were going to cut the house in half and move it there and then open up that street. Well, it didn't work out because Ravenna streets are so narrow, we couldn't get it there without taking down like every telephone pole from Main Street to Maple Street. So I abandoned that idea and eventually sold the property. Well, the two owners on either side of that street on Maple Street wanted that street removed. So I sold the back like 20 feet of my property before I sold the house to one of those owners, and then they petitioned the council, the city council, to have the street abandoned. And they did abandon it, and then they just gave 25 feet to one homeowner and 25 feet to the other homeowner. So this goes back pretty far, and maybe only the mayor might remember something as far-fetched as this. So I do have a little bit of a history with something like this happening. So I live at the end of Woodbend Drive, and there's a swamp next to me, which would be Highland Avenue if it was ever opened up. Now, I realize Giant Eagle owns the properties behind Giant Eagle, and they don't have any intention, I don't believe, of ever opening up Highland Avenue, but it would be a real issue for Springtree. That's the development that it would run into, because it would open up an access from State Route 14 to miss going through Cotton Corners, and they could just,
Right.
zoom through Springtree and then be on Highland and miss all of that traffic. So it's always been a concern. I've been there almost 40 years. There's only 2 homeowners left, I think, Deans and Size, that still probably have that same concern, that would remember that that is Highland Avenue. So the point is, Giant Eagle doesn't have any intentions of ever opening that up, but grocery stores come and go. I've been through 8 or 9 grocery stores in my life here, and if someone else bought it and thought, why would we want these lots behind Giant Eagle? Let's sell them to a developer, and if a developer had it, they would want to open it up into Springtree. So there's a couple different ways to look at it. One, it would create a safety buffer so that that could never be opened up into the neighborhood. And number 2, I have interest because I'd like to put up another garage. And I don't think there's an easel here, is there? So anyways, this is what the attachment is on one of your pictures, and this is the other that I've created that shows the building that I would construct. So it's a $100,000 building, and I built this one 3 years ago, the garage. And I'm kind of at the point where I have 15 more feet on my property, but I don't have enough to go to 25 feet. So there is a swamp next to me that would be Highland Avenue if it was ever opened up, but hopefully it always remains a swamp. So even if I did utilize, approximately 10 feet of that going towards Main Street and a 25-foot width, the rest of it, 90% approximately, would remain a swamp. If you walk through there in July or August, you'll sink to your ankles or to your knees. It's so wet. And I don't think anyone would ever want to open it up. And I certainly wouldn't want to try and change it from being a swamp. But if I had another additional amount of 10 feet, I could build another garage. The city would take a parcel that currently has no tax revenue, and they would gain tax revenue from a $100,000 building being on it, and going forward, they would have a little bit of a tax revenue from it. And obviously, when they're buying things like the farm and things like that, they need tax revenue, so there's a little bit that I could add to the city coffers.
So what is it that you're asking for?
So there's 3 different ways you could look at it. One, the city could abandon it and
That's
give
what I have.
25 feet to the county, which I don't know that they want it. They own the property that abuts it, I believe, and then I own the other property. Or you could abandon it and give all 50 feet to me, and then I would take care of it, or you could sell it to me. So there's like 3 different ways to look at it.
Is this an environmentally sensitive area?
It's a swamp. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's still swamps or ecosystems that are
Well, let's put it
environmentally
this way. Most of Spring Tree, at least my end of Spring Tree, was built on a swamp. So, but that was 40 years ago, and maybe that didn't matter as much 40 years ago. The only encumbrance on the property is there's a water line on the southern portion that goes east and west. That would still be approximately 20 or 25 feet away from where this garage, the back wall of the garage would be. So I know this is kind of confusing to think about, that as to exactly where it is, but I did pull up a map on my phone, and then I marked it on the map so that you can see exactly where it's located.
So,
Would he have to go through BZA to approve this if this were to happen?
I believe he would,
Yes.
because, correct me if I'm wrong, you have a garage that's part of your main building? And then you built a separate garage?
Right, and
This would be a third garage.
correct, it would be attached to the other garage. That's per Spring Tree's regulation.
Yeah, I see the attachment, but I don't know that the attachment qualifies it as an attached accessory building. It could freely stand by itself without the attachment. The attachment is just, and that and the fact that you already have 2 garages suggests that this would be an additional second permanent accessory building, which would require a variance. That's my opinion. I was on the BZA for many years.
Right.
So I don't know, this is one of those cart before the horse things, too.
Well, and
you could-
I asked Bob about this, and he said it's because this is involving city property. That's
Well-
why it's in front of council.
Of course. I'm just saying, though, in theory, you could come before us, we could sell you the property, you can go before the BZA, and they could turn you down, and you still wouldn't be able to build your,
And I'd be fine with that.
okay.
Because I would have still corrected one issue with our neighborhood, and that would be taking away the chance that it could ever turn into an open street and again, a freeway. Yeah, I mean, if I never build a garage, I'm okay with that. But I am still addressing what is an issue, at least in my mind.
Fair enough.
And it doesn't have to be a garage. It could be an outbuilding with a large a place in it for, for family.
It would be,
get-togethers.
that would still be a permanent, that would still require a variance.
Yes, I get that. And then I did, when the other garage was built, I did come before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and we went through that process. This was 3 years ago.
Was that because it was big?
No, it was because we're in a swamp. So I built the construction, I had a professional company from Millersburg, an Amish company, and I insisted that there be cement block foundation rather than a poured walls like they do nowadays. So it would be similar to my house. We went down, I think, about 14 blocks.
Oh, okay.
But the very next day that it was completed, we brought in truckloads of topsoil, backfilled it, and you only see 1.5 blocks. So it's up out of the swamp.
I get it.
It cost a lot of extra money to do that. The same situation would be with this building. It would have to be built the same way to make sure that the groundwater wouldn't affect it. So it would be done correctly.
It would require 3 different variances to build another garage on this property.
Yeah.
Have you had that property ever appraised to find out what the value actually is?
No.
Is it ever,
No, we have utilities running through that property. We don't sell land. There's also a ditch that runs through that property that conveys water from the east side of Highland Avenue, Paper Street. Might even come from the swimming pool of Springtree. I'm not sure exactly where the groundwater comes from, but there's a ditch and a pipe that runs under the road that conveys water toward the Giant Eagle Swamp, as it's called.
Yeah, most of the water comes down the street because it's all tapered down towards the end of the street, and it's just like a river.
Right. So it conveys city street water also.
Right, so it's not a buildable lot because of the water line, the city water line that runs through it anyways.
I mean, honestly, I feel like this is something that is nowhere near even approaching being able to leave committee. There would be a lot more questions we would need answered. I mean, for me, I would need more questions answered for this.
I agree.
have you thought about going before BZA just to see what they say ahead of time so that you would at least, I know you said that it wouldn't matter either way, that you'd like the property for protection, which I understand. I respect that. But if you're saying we don't sell land and this has got, all the utilities and stuff there, then are we leading him on that to come here and ask him, to ask for this property if this is something that we don't do?
We have vacated paper streets over the years where there were no utilities, and they potentially were dead-end streets most generally, and the residents on both sides were able to take ownership of those.
But this has
In
utilities.
this case, it has utilities, that is correct,
And drainage.
and drainage, correct, which in
So
essence is a utility.
So was this stated to you when you asked about this property? Did you know all of this as far as the utilities
I knew
and,
that the water line was there, yeah, and I knew that there was a ditch there, but
okay.
not much of a ditch though. It just dumps out there and it creates a bigger swamp. Basically what it does.
Yeah, I think we probably need to get some further
Yeah.
questions, from Bob and the administration on this. And I do understand your concern, but now I have him saying that we don't normally do this. So I don't know enough information yet to be able to give you a fair answer. I don't want to lead you on either.
Yeah, I get it.
I'd like to look at the comprehensive master plan in reference to this area. Because there is a lot of things in here about water drainage and, again, the environmentally sensitive areas that we're talking about. So we'll keep this in committee.
Yeah.
Oh, Carmen, do we have other questions?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I guess a couple things, although I'm not saying for or against either one, a couple considerations I think we need to examine closely is, do we want to abandon Highland Extension? If we do this for all time, then that's gone, ever the possibility. Now, we say that there is, that land is swamp, but Bryn Mawr, Woodbend was swamp where those houses got developed just there. So if we're talking about developable land, that may be developable land. So I think that's a consideration that we need to look at as your committee is looking at this. Also, the idea of putting a structure in the middle of the dead end of the road facing the neighborhood, what effect that is on the neighborhood. We do not know what the effect is on that. So there are several questions, I think, that we may need to look at on this.
Can the city abandon something that has a utility running through it?
I don't think you can.
City council can do what they want. That's why he's presenting it. There's no reason to go to Board of Zoning Appeals unless city council is interested or willing.
For me, the concern is that we have a city utility running through it.
Right.
That, and that's, I'm guessing, why it went to BZA the first time with the other structure.
No, the first time it went to BZA was he already has more parking than the code permits.
Got you.
I'm sorry, he's adding more parking than the code permits.
So it didn't have to do with anything.
It didn't have to do it, he was on his
So this
property,
isn't
that
the
wasn't an
reason.
issue. Yeah, this is,
Okay.
the reason specifically is he's asking for city property. I did convey to him, I wasn't optimistic city council would move this forward. But evidently, he still wanted to present it to city council.
Well, that's your right. Well, if we have any more updates, we'll reach out to you and let you know. But I'm mostly concerned with, do we have any precedent abandoning something with a city utility running through it?
In my years with the city, we have not.
Do you have any institutional knowledge of any type of instance where the city's abandoned something with a utility running through it?
The street that was behind my other house did not have any utilities running through it. It was just a street that went nowhere.
To me, that's my biggest concern. But we'll check a little
Right.
bit more into it, and we'll make sure that we communicate back to you.
Where the water line is, though, it wouldn't have any impact whatsoever where this structure would be. It's 20 to 25 feet away from the back wall of it. So it's probably no different than a water line that runs across somebody's property. It's just there.
I'll have to confer with Mr. Finney further,
Right.
and if it gets to that point, I think that, I mean, when I was on planning, I used to like to go to places in person and look at it, because it helps me get, to me, it's to see it in person is better than looking at pictures and maps.
Right.
So if you see cars in your driveway, it's some of us.
Yeah, we
Trying
still
to
have
get a better
daylight
idea.
savings. Yeah,
Where the dead end, there's always cars
Yeah.
in the driveway turning around. Just to answer Dr. Calfee's question, if the building, the structure would be in line with where the house already is, it would meet the development's requirements as to how far the setback had to be, and it would not be facing the street. It would actually be facing towards the existing house.
So,
It wouldn't be sitting out like by itself, right?
yeah, the red X that you have on the map that you presented to us,
That's the street.
Okay.
That's where the street currently is.
that's what that mark is.
Right,
Okay.
nothing more than that,
Yeah, it would
right?
be over the
Okay.
green side.
It was in the shape of a garage.
As far as the building itself, it would meet all of the development's requirements. I've already talked to the association, and they didn't have any issue with another building. It actually, it adds to the development, in terms of property value and like that, so.
Well, thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for all your time.
We have a committee, a community member that would like to speak. Could hang around, maybe he's got a question for you.
No,
About 65 years ago, my parents bought a house on Summit Street up by where this Cargan School, and there was only, whoever built it, there was like 10 feet. There wasn't any room even for a driveway. And the city, because Robinson, if anybody knows where Robinson Avenue is, you should know because you're right there, Robinson. If they would have put that street through, there's that big hill that goes down to Clinton, and they saw that they were not going to do that. So they asked both sides if they wanted it. I think, as I remember, and it could be wrong on this, I'd have to look at it further, they had, the utilities did have a right-of-way in there and might still have the right-of-way to put poles through if they had to. And so it kind of gets it closer to what our water line there. It just seems to me that first of all, I own a couple lots back in that too. It's not all Giant Eagle. They gave those lots out as bingo prizes in the 50s. They're 30 feet by 130. And there used to be a house back in there, an old house that we used to play in when we were kids, until one day, and I wasn't there, somebody lit it up, okay? And it was an 1800s brick home that did catch on fire, and it was back there. So this has not always been swamp, as everybody calls it, or wetlands. I don't think that that's really anything. Of course, the land would have to be checked for development, but also, too, something to take into consideration. By giving away the access of Highland off of Woodbend, that still has access, two other accesses from Linden and Highland. If you follow Highland to the east, there's a gate there,
Yeah.
and that's where that road goes through. So there would still be access there too. But besides that, I always.
The road that comes in beside Giant Eagle is a dedicated street. It's two streets that come in.
I always wanted to know, my lot's on Grove Street. And I always wanted to know if I put two together there and I want to build, do I have the right to come to the city and say, I need the street put through, and can I do that? How would that work, Bob?
You can always ask council. But I can tell you the city's never built a road in recent
know.
era.
Right.
They're always built by a developer.
Right. But would that be given the right to do that? And if that's the case, if they were going to develop that back there, they'd have ample areas to get access back into that property. One of the reasons why that lot is, or that area is so wet, is somebody dropped the ball when they built Giant Eagle, and we didn't take care of the groundwater from that place. Okay? Plus, add to a pond back there that they did put in there, they didn't take care of the beavers that blocked it up and flooded the area. And there's trees out there that are 60, 80 feet tall that grew to be 60, 80 feet tall, and in the last 15, 20 years are dead because of the water. It's not wetlands. I'm sure that when it comes down to the color of the soil, which that's what they go by, black soil, gray soil, isn't that, you know a little bit about that, Bob? Whether it is wetlands or not, you can tell by the soil makeup, and then that's how they judge that. So just a thing. Again, a way to, my sister's here owns the property that, where my parents, I think our tax on that 25 feet, it's pretty strong. I think it's over $1,000, it's somewhere like $200 or $300 a half for 25 feet through there. Because if to us, it was worth a lot of money, because we were able, my dad was able to put a garage up and a driveway up, and because of that. So it's just a thought on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Carmen, are we good?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the nice presentation.
Thank
We
you.
will definitely get back to you, okay?
I appreciate all the time.
Thank you very much. All right. One more off the list. So the next thing that we have on the list is city manager.
No.
No, CAC.
Oh, yeah, the
So
CAC.
Carmen, are we going to keep this in committee until we figure out what's
Yes.
going on?
I
Okay.
would like to keep this in committee. until we get some more questions answered about this, especially like looking at the comprehensive master plan. This is in a priority wetland. That's what it's designated as. So if Mr. Peets is still here, I'll be emailing you tomorrow about this area. Okay. Is that okay with?
Sure.
Keep it in committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the CAC Summer Food Program, from my understanding, this is something that is done every year and council's familiar with it.
Yeah, there's no money exchange from us. It's all
Right.
provided by them. It's just us going into contract.
All right, so is
Move it
there any
forward.
questions or
Nope.
discussion? Are we moving it forward?
Yep, move it forward.
All right, this one's going forward. Oh, that was easy. Okay. All right, so city manager, this one is something that I've brought up a few times. And this was to explore bringing this position to the city. City managers function a lot like superintendents do for school districts. They are mostly concerned with coordinating and communicating with the different city departments. They're typically pretty connected with the people that make funding and grant decisions. Kent is the closest community that has a city manager. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been reaching out to communities that have a city manager, looking at ordinances, but also I've requested the discussions that their respective councils have had regarding it. Right now, I have a pretty thorough response from Hudson, but to me, Hudson's an outlier because Hudson started with a city manager, and they've had one since 1958. However, other communities that I'm communicating with, Kent, Westerville, and Steubenville, they have actually undergone this process in the past 20 years. So it's more of looking at something that is more transitional. So I would like to keep this in committee because I do not have the responses that I like yet that I would like to present to the rest of council and the rest of the committee regarding those discussions about a city manager. But overall, it's about bringing a higher degree of efficiency to city operations. And I know the mayor spoke. I don't know if you wanted to say a few words because your experience and your insight into this is valuable.
My suggestion was to take a look at this. The country's changed, and a lot of the business and the way we do business is going to change along with it. There's also, at some point in time, I can't help but think that the township will become part of, into one, out of necessity. That's just my opinion with this. But I think, I'm not beating the drums to do this, and I'm not affected by it, by the way. And so that I'm talking about as doing this job this long and watching how things go. I feel that it needs to be looked at and discussed I think for the good of the future of the city.
Well, it's a very big deal to do something like this, an undertaking, which is why I'm really invested in getting as much information as I can from communities that have looked at it in a similar way. And recently, too. I mean, 1958 America versus 2026 is pretty different. So I'd like to look at communities that are similar to ours and look at the process from that angle. So that we could have a better discussion and also the insight from other city councils that are sitting in the position that we're in now, which is just an emerging phase of taking a look at something like this. So does anybody have any questions?
I have had several of the city employees reach out to me after this went on, speaking that they are in favor of this. They're concerned about the future because you never know who's going to end up in the seat. And that's the scary part. There is no guarantee on who's going to come out. And I think, just looking from all the years that I've been on city council, I can see pros and I can see cons too. And it's worth looking into. Ultimately, it comes up to the voters on what they want. But I think consistency is important. I think people shouldn't have to worry about their jobs all the time, whether or not they're going to lose their jobs, a different administration's going to come on. There's been a lot of inconsistencies through the years. And I think that depending on who would get in, I think that it could be scary if somebody did get in that did not have the experience or had served on city council before. If someone just decided they wanted to run and, won because of popularity, it could be very scary for our community. So I think we have to look realistically and look at both ways.
Well, one of the biggest pros is that it does take the politics out of things, which tends to hold smaller communities back than larger ones in essence. And like you said, for the city employees, it has that promise of consistency. So I feel like this is something that I would like to keep getting these responses back.
I wanted to add that, not this past charter, obviously, because I'm here, but how many charters ago were the three of us?
It was 2017.
Yeah, so, we talked about it then. So it's not like this is something new that's brought. This is something that, and I think one of the holdups, at least for me back in 2017, was it's a big endeavor. Like trying to figure out with the amount of time that we had on charter review, how we would accomplish that was a lot to try to figure out. So, I know that it's not a new conversation.
Do you want to open it up if anyone has any questions from the audience on
Let me
this?
just, a couple of things. Just in terms of process, in order for council to place an amendment on the ballot, will require 5 votes, not the normal 4. And I checked, and I believe Kent started with a city manager in 1977, so I'm not sure how much historical memory they have over there. You might have to check another place that's done it more recently. Steubenville, okay.
I actually looked at some, from an economic development perspective, the communities who have these, when they've adopted them, they've seen a lot of positive, because that's what these people do. This is what they're experts in. They're like CEOs of companies, and so they're able to bring that in a way. And we do have a lot of discussion here on all kinds of various committees and outside organizations about the economic vitality, especially of our downtown.
Yeah, just to jump in and give you some other feedback too. Was it 17 that we pushed for the finance director to be a non-elected position to appointed one, just because we ran into the circumstance where we just didn't have enough candidates within city limits to make sure we had a highly qualified person to be eligible even for that role. So
We didn't have any candidates.
you know what I mean. But speaking to the expertise of different just roles and entities, it's like you want someone who's administering your city to be competent, to have a strong background in the areas of subject matters that you need them to be successful in, so we all can be successful in that. So I see this as a reasonable opportunity to at least explore having a wider pool of possible people in the role to accommodate our needs as a city. And a city manager is often held accountable by city council themselves. So it's not like you have to wait 4 years if the city only has a 1-year contract with the city manager. That can be non-renewed if they have poor performance. Just to give you some thoughts and feedback on that.
Most of the communities I looked at, they've had some of their city managers, they've been on for a very long time.
Yeah. David Ruller was, I think, the longest serving in Kent in 2017 when we interviewed him, and I believe he's still there today, if memory
Yeah, he
serves.
is.
Yeah, still there.
I was reading a newspaper article about him, so I do think it's something that is worth looking at. I know that there's also a timeline issue. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to make some comments.
No, please do.
Before you wrapped it up. This issue is a very huge issue, even the consideration of it. the only way to get it accomplished is either the council suggests an ordinance that goes to the voters, or the Charter Review Committee does. And this issue was examined by the Charter Review Committee at least twice.
It was on mine, too.
It was on yours, so it was on mine and yours, so like,
I go back to around 2001.
so it's been looked at, and as we look at it, there is a lot of in-depth points made one way or the other. We don't have time to do them right now, but a city manager will cost at least $200,000, at least.
But that's not what they're paying the city managers around us.
I think that's probably what Kent is paying.
We can get the numbers, but it's okay. I can't prove it right now.
It'll cost more.
At least $200,000. The other thing is, we have to give people an opportunity to respond about what we view the candidate pool is. Our last 3 mayors came from council and have been fine, done fine job. I wouldn't say immediately that we don't have a pool to call from to be mayors. So there's just a lot of big questions out there. It would completely change the governance of the city also, because in all those places where we go to a city manager, the mayor position is maintained, but in a lesser capacity, and there has to be a determination of what duties they have to do, whether it's ceremonial only or if they have some official obligations. In some districts where they go to a city manager like that, the mayor then becomes the president of council, which is a way in which they change it. So there's a lot of things to look at, so.
And I'm looking at those different forms. Where I grew up in Mentor, it was like that, the council manager.
And again, just for clarity of the process, it's still up to city council, even if there's a charter review commission. The charter review commission brings their proposals, council still has to approve them.
Yeah, failing that, it could go to a public initiative.
Right, well, that's true. That can always happen.
That's an idea. I've done that before. Yes, Mr. Soto?
But yeah.
Several years ago, and I can't remember which one of the charters review I sat in on, and so I would suppose it might be back in the early 2000s. And a then mayor, not this one, came in and basically said in no uncertain terms that you will not look at putting a city manager in here, okay? Which basically might have changed those people's minds at that time. And that's the kind of thing that you'd kind of like to get away with when it's so political, to go ahead and get a city manager in there. And I don't think that it's $200,000 either. I looked at a lot of them, and it was a lot less than that. Yeah, the more you pay, you might get a better person,
Yeah, it looks like
but
there's
that number's not right.
It looks like there's an article from the Record Courier from 2022 in February, and it shared that Mr. Ruler was making 166 and some change. But then again, he is also one of the longest-serving city managers.
I think he's
in
making
Ohio.
closer to the 200.
200 and benefits also that are not included in that number. So
And 10%.
some of my belief on the amount that you would pay based on research that was done back when our charter committee was reviewing it at that time. So time will tell. Those numbers are available, and we can look at those numbers.
Well, I do like to look at data. I like to have it in front of me. So that's one of the reasons I want to keep this in committee. While I get responses back, I would like to make a PowerPoint presentation when I do have it together, because I'm assuming there'll be people out in the audience who would like to see what we're looking at, and where I've gotten that research from, and why people go to these things. And I do think that Ravenna has a ton of communication issues. I feel like a lot of the issues that I hear about and see all come down to communication. And I do think that's something, and we could have a terrific mayor next time. We could not change anything and have a terrific mayor. And I'd really like to make decisions not based around a person so much as the role, because you just never know who is going to be there. And we have a lot at stake. And like I said before, I think this is a community that's poised for a lot of positive growth. Look at us adopting a master plan and everything. So I would like to kind of see us kind of look at different things. And my feelings won't be hurt if it doesn't go anywhere. It's just I think that it's worth having the discussion and the research and the exploration at a council level. For whatever various reasons, it never got out of charter commission.
Well, from 2017, we did get that consideration, but one of the big challenges that we saw as the committee was, even though generally the committee was conceivably in favor of it, from my understanding of how people felt about it, the biggest challenge was like this, to Mr. Calfee's point, is it's such a massive change that, I mean, even if the Charter Review Committee, they start in the beginning of the year, they have to submit their recommendations to council by July. And if you're reading through the entire charter, really trying to understand it, and a lot of the citizens that participate in that, they don't have a background in political science and things. So there's a learning curve. Even just starting that committee, it takes so much time just to really get comfortable and really get moving on the progress. But the fact that it would take us more time than we had to give a recommendation is why we didn't in the end up submitting that. But it's no small task.
And I think the last charter, the reason why they didn't go forward is because they found out Mayor Seaman wanted to run again.
Yeah, we found that out when he came to our meeting and announced that he was rerunning. So then we kind of, I mean, collectively, we felt awful, like, okay, well, if we talk about city manager now, this is going to be super weird because he just told us all that he's running for mayor, so it's going to look personal, even though that's not the way that we would have intended the discussion to go. So imagine that. So I'm glad you're here. So anyways, that's okay to keep it in committee right now? Okay. All right, management update.
I have none.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we are adjourning at 7:21 PM.
I just wrote AM down there because it's been a day.
You may have set a record for the length of your committee meeting, your first committee
Listen,
meeting.
I gotta.
Your first one.
I missed last month, so I had to
Make it enough. And at 7:21, I will call to order the Community and Economic Development Committee. I have touched base with my committee members, and we are actually going to be doing some of our items this evening and then some of our items before Committee of the Whole on the 23rd. So tonight, for my first discussion item, we have a presentation from the Ravenna Chamber of Commerce. So if it is Ryan, are you giving the presentation? Yeah, actually, yep. I got a couple people. All right, come on up if you guys. So our committee does not, this is our plan for this evening, is just to hear from the chamber.
Okay, good evening. I'm going to try to keep it pretty short, but there is some really exciting information that I wanted to make sure that we shared with you guys. So I wanted to thank you all for giving us the opportunity again to come to council and have a conversation and just share with you about what the chamber has been doing in the last year and what we've changed, how we've switched things up, as well as what we've been doing up and are going forward. So thank you for that. And I know that I had emailed out the packet to everybody, as well as it's being passed around. Again, vision and mission, the Ravenna Area Chamber of Commerce is organized to advance the general welfare and prosperity of the Ravenna area so that its citizens in all areas of its business community shall prosper. Emphasis shall be given to the economic, civic, commercial, cultural, industrial, and educational interests of the area. I wanted to just hit on a couple of things that were very exciting that had been added last year to the Ravenna Chamber. One is, do you want to do yours first? Okay. We're going to do the Youth Leadership Ravenna, which I have to say came from the comprehensive plan. So something has been already started with that plan. So go ahead.
a lot shorter.
Hi, I'm the Vice President of Tiffany Jones of the Ravenna Chamber. So as Ryan alluded to, one of the initiatives that I'm especially proud of is the Youth Leadership Ravenna program. I got to sit at some of the comprehensive plan meetings, and it was mentioned that it was kind of modeled after Leadership Portage County. It was an idea to get the youth invested in the community, to kind of understand what's going on in their community, and they thought that it would be a great idea for the chamber to lead that program. So I thought it was perfect and in alignment with our mission, and so we added it right away and started it with this current school year. This program currently has about 25 students. They can be anyone in high school, but they are the typically going to be the principal's leadership group. So they're kind of the students that have been identified as leaders in their school. They have a chance to have a better understanding of their community. It goes through, and they participate in several sessions throughout the school year where they learn about local government. They came here, economic development, nonprofits, community leadership. They complete volunteer hours, and they will be presenting a capstone project that addresses a community issue or need. So we wanted them to really not only get to learn about their community, but be thinking of how they can give back. So these projects also need to be not just things like, they can't just say, oh, we need all new streets. Great. It has to be something they can actually do. So what can you do to give back to your community and make Ravenna a better place? And we asked them to go through the different tours and things that they've learned and say, okay, you toured the fire department, you toured the police department, you learned about nonprofits, you volunteered. From all of those experiences, what can you do? What is the need that Ravenna has, and what can you do to give back? So through this program, we have, again, about 25 students participating of all grades. But this year, we are going to be able to give 3 scholarships out. We normally give scholarships, but they're just tied to turn in an essay, and then we select someone. We are now going to tie it to this program. So the scholarships will be going to the students that have communicated, have invested in their community, have participated throughout the time, have done the capstone, and have volunteered. So these will be students that really have shown an investment and a commitment to Ravenna. So the scholarship component is one of the bigger reasons that you are seeing an increase in our ask this year, because we would like to grow it. As I said, right now there's 25 students. Not all of them are seniors, but there are probably a good number. Yeah, that are seniors, but we only have the funding right now to be able to give 3 of them scholarships. I would like to be able to give all eligible seniors in the program who complete all the requirements a scholarship, and tie it to that. So if they're showing and they're going through this whole program and they are doing all the things, I would like to be able to reward them and encourage them to care about their community. So again, just a little bit about our program. We already started it, even though it's not officially in the comprehensive plan, or it's in the plan, but the plan hasn't been adopted. We went ahead and jumped ahead and started it, and I think the kids have really enjoyed it. I know I have learned a lot. I'm not a resident of Ravenna. It's my second city, but I have learned a lot about the history and about all the groups here, and I'm so excited. And we invite you all to join us for their capstones. They will be doing that here. Date is still in the air next month, and talking about all their ideas. And I'd love for all of you to come and hear their ideas. And I told them, these are not ideas that you just have to have. You can actually implement them. I told them, I did the scarecrow contest. It just comes from an idea, and one little idea can then turn into a big thing. So I'm really hopeful that these students will kind of take that on and really come up with great things.
And now we'll move that back up. And we will definitely get you guys the date for that, because it would be awesome to have you guys be present for that. I think it would show well for the kids. And just, again, I know that there were a couple city council representatives that were able to be there when we came and visited the city. But I think having them be able to meet more and of you guys, I think that would go over really, really well. But another program that we started was our Ravenna Business Launchpad program, which is very near and dear to my heart. It is basically like a business incubator type program, and it what started, actually Matt Farrell and I, our board president, back in 2019, 18, we had the vision of trying to start something on a larger level because being in the position that I've been in for now 10 and a half years, I've seen so many businesses come into town and they will have a hope and a dream, but that's all they have. They don't have necessarily the resources, the marketing, the support to be able to, the financing, the business plan, to be able to take it from point A to, staying open. And that's our goal. So we weren't able to get that 100% obviously kicked out off the ground or started. So what we ended up doing last year was we were like, you know what, why don't we do it on a smaller level? And so for those of you who have driven past the chamber office, there's always something different in my windows. And Carmen, it makes you, things that make you go, you're like, what is she doing now? But one of our first businesses that we took was ETC Sports, and we gave him space within the chamber office and got him started, gave him, different hours that he could set up for himself. He is actually, ETC Sports is a sports memorabilia, autographed sports memorabilia business. And actually his name is, I invited them along so you guys could get a chance to meet them. Mark Hartberg right here with his shirt on. He started the chamber office back in July of 2025. And he, luckily, we got him to open up a storefront right next door to me, right at the corner there, by Midnight Madness. So that was our first successful, 100% success rate. Did a Facebook Live, and I got my next candidate, who is also here, Rod Flawhouse, who is our record arsenal guy. He's selling records and has been doing exceptionally well. He just opened or started the chamber. The goal is to have them be at the chamber office for about 4 to 6 months at the most. But again, to get out there and fill up one of our storefronts. And Rod, can I publicly? Okay, so Rod, just last Monday, a week ago from today, signed his lease, and he's gonna be in the Sip and Social. So, in the old Sip and Social. So now we have 2 businesses, less than 9 months, that are now filled and successfully running and healthy and continuing to grow and expand. So that is something that I'm really extremely proud of, and it re-energizes, yeah. It makes you feel good because you can see the growth and the success within them, and they've been a huge support, and very, very gracious and thankful. So with that being said, you will see pretty soon our applications will be being taken for new candidates. So if you know of anybody that it would be looking to open up a business or has that vision that wants to just test the waters, please send them my way, okay? Another activity or event that we started was our monthly coffee talks. And we started those in October of 2025. What those are is that we had consistently tried to have before hours event or after hours events. And we would try to include all the different businesses and as far as locations. And we weren't getting the turnout. So this year we said, you know what, why don't we just commit to one location for a year's time and see if that helps with people consistently showing up and growing. And Lord Almighty, it sure has. Every week or every month, it has grown significantly. I think it started off with 7. We have an original one here, right here, Miss Kathy Klein. About 7, and we're having another one, our 5th one, I think it is, yeah. This upcoming Wednesday at Horseshoe Diner at 8:30 to 9:30, and we should be sitting at roughly I'm guessing probably about 25. So it's consistently growing, and people are getting more involved, and that is an opportunity not only for them to hear about what's going on with the chamber, ask any questions, suggestions, anything like that, but as well as give them the opportunity to do like a 30-second commercial and get to know other people and businesses within the community and surrounding community. So that's also been a great addition. As far as the major events page, we did create another event this year that was already held, which was our murder mystery dinner. And one of your finest was actually there bartending, Mr. Bob Finney. He was there. This was the first time that we actually had this event and created this. And this idea came from actually Horseshoe Diner, Woody Goodnight. And wanted to collaborate and do something. And I said, you know what, why not? Let's do it. And it was sold out a week before. It was actually held in the downstairs of the Buckeye Mall, which I know you had no idea that there was an event center that was down there when I went to see. Like, so this was an event center. For those of you that didn't know, this was an event center that hasn't been used for the public for probably decades. So it was nice to be able to bring life back into it, and it was an extremely successful event. And I think that they're getting more awareness and people that are interested in renting that hall. So that's also a plus, a benefit, and that was the goal for that purpose as well, because it's just to bring that life and bring foot traffic down there. So in addition to that, it did take a lot of people after the event out to, the winery, out to the different after hours establishments too. So it not only brought people into the community for the event, but also kept them there. So another event that we're actually collaborating with, or collaborating on, is our Community Cup Challenge. That will be new this year. Chris Bundy, Parks and Rec, and I had met last year, and he had asked, what could we do together? I said, well, I've always wanted to do a corporate challenge, something along those lines. He was all about it, and we're working out the details for that as well, and it's going to be great. It will be kicked off at our golf outing. There will be, if you participate in the golf outing, you will get points towards the Community Cup. And then that following week, I don't have the exact dates, but it's the Tuesday, Thursday, and then Saturday. And we're looking to do, pickleball. We're looking to do the disc golf. We're looking to do not only at Chestnut Hills Park, but at City Park. And then we also are looking to, of course, utilize Sunbow. So that's a great collaboration that we've been able to work together, and I'm excited about bringing that to Ravenna, because I think that will offer a nice just switch up there. So as far as everything else that's on the list, we do still have our hiring event, Halloween walk, Ravenna holiday celebration, holiday raffle, as well as our window decorating. We're actually looking to do that. Did you want to speak on that really quick? Okay.
So I do a lot of social media, and this year we always do the holiday date of driving around and looking at lights, and every single person I mentioned that to said, oh, did you see the post of the houses in Talmadge that have the lights? Every person. This was not something that Talmadge did as a collaborated effort, but there was a list of houses that you could go to see lights. And so, of course, that's where we were headed, was Talmadge, because they had all these lights. So I said, that's an opportunity, because if it can spread that much without anyone specifically trying to make it spread, if we made a point, we could get Ravenna to be that destination. There are decorated houses, there are neighborhoods in Ravenna that decorate. If we just get a list and we have that, and maybe the businesses also, because when you are going on those, drives, you have to stop, and I don't know if if you're me, you have to stop and get coffee or hot cocoa because that just fits the bill. You're gonna have dinner out because it's date night. And so if we can make that destination, instead of Talmadge, if we can make that destination Ravenna, then the businesses are going to get that boon instead of Talmadge. And I don't think it'll be that difficult to do, to just compile a list and say, hey, if you have, decorations, we want to put you on this list. And then businesses, if you want to run a special, holiday light special, holiday light drinks, things like that. So that was our idea. We'll see if it takes off. But again, any little idea to bring businesses and people into Ravenna, I think, is a great idea.
And then additional events that we are doing and actually have added this year. Well, we had been doing multi-chamber events, usually collaborating with Ravenna, Streetsboro, Aurora, and Kent. But this year we have just kicked off our first multi-chamber event, which is it's like 11 chambers that are part of it. It was the first event. It's a first Friday event, and it's actually held out at the Great Lakes Honda in Akron. But there is a lot of people that go to that, and it offers a lot of networking and expanding out beyond Ravenna as far as getting the word out there and making those connections. So that is a first Friday event, and there was probably, this last one that I went to, probably 60 to 70 people that were there. So it's, again, making those connections, bringing that in. Lunch and learns, we're still doing those where we focus on AI, anything that can help the businesses within, helping them grow or learn. So that's something that we continuously are doing. And then that, I think, is it for me. Did you want to come up?
So all the things that we have talked about and that are in our booklet obviously are made possible through our collaboration with the city, and we appreciate it. There have been added expenses. I think everyone's pocketbooks could tell you that story. So we have been very thoughtful and intentional. We are not just coming and asking for more money to reflect that things are more expensive this year. We as a chamber have kind of decided to take a strategic look at that, and we have done strategic planning ourselves about how to strengthen our financial model, how to increase our revenue. We are placing greater emphasis on member engagement, on renewals. Our board has launched an initiative to try to gain and grow membership participation through some scorecards of membership, and then also through the board members actually going and engaging and trying to contact members about their renewal. So we are definitely making our own efforts to do that, and I just want to make sure that that was relayed to you. So while we are requesting an increased support from the city this year, we are also actively working to diversify our revenue across our sources and ensure that our chamber can continue to operate responsibly and sustainably. You will see outlined in the document before you, the city's support plays an important role in allowing the chamber to continue providing community events, supporting local businesses, and investing in initiatives like Youth Leadership Ravenna and the Business Launchpad that will benefit the entire community. We did ask for a specific amount to increase for the scholarships, again, as noted. And we do appreciate the partnership that we have with the city and the role that you play in helping all of these efforts. So consider this book a cheers to you all and your support as well.
Any questions?
I know you do.
No, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Somebody else go.
Well, I just had a question. I was reading, you guys have a page in here on the Chamber of Commerce being a 501c6 organization. What examples do you guys have of lobbying for businesses in Ravenna that you guys have participated in?
As far as lobbying for businesses, we haven't done too much of that, to be honest, because it hadn't been an actual need or anything that had been brought to my attention.
Okay. So I'm just, like, you guys gave me this, so don't shoot the messenger. It says that political activity, so unlimited lobbying efforts such as activities directed to promote common business interests of the organization, is what this says on the flyer. So,
That's the legislative, like, we could, that's just saying different nonprofits have different rules on what they are allowed to do. So
Okay.
it's not necessarily saying that we do that, it's just showing the difference between
That you have
different
the
types
capacity
of
to do it.
nonprofits that are
Okay.
allowed to do that. We did actually do, as part of our strategic planning, we did a poll to our membership and asked them to weigh in on kind of issues that were precedent in their mind, taking precedence in their mind, and that they wanted. And that was one of them, increased lobbying, increased political activity, and that did not rank as one of the priorities at this time. So it may in the future, and again, we would be an organization that would be permitted to do that, but at this point, that is not what the members have indicated is a priority.
thank you.
Of course, you could argue what they're doing right now is lobbying us.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you very much for your informative presentation and what's going on. It sounds very exciting. I was especially interested in the Business Launchpad program. And in that program, was I correct to assume that you said that you provided this space at no expense to them? So the nature of the question is, I'm wanting to know how much of the money from your budget is going into sponsoring those programs.
Realistically, there's not much that's going into that because they're just using my office as a home per se. So it's funny that you say that though, because I was actually going to be talking with my landlord and saying, hey, and probably trying to lobby to him and saying, hey, maybe we need to decrease the rent because I'm filling some of your storefronts. So that is something that is on my agenda. But as far as right now, there is really no expenses for that.
Okay, thank you. Then the additional ask that you have here is you're wanting to increase from 30,000 to 40,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Then you identify that you want to increase the scholarships from $1,500 to $5,000. So $3,500 of this proposed increase that we might give would be just for the scholarships.
Correct.
Okay, so
Correct.
So in effect, we would be funding additional scholarships for you.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And that was basically, go ahead.
So I think just in addition to that, I think we're also looking at increasing the size of our scholarships because in the past, they've been $500 to $1,000. And I mean, we just talked about budget increases and stuff. So we'd like to give out a little bit more money to maybe an extra participant or two, but we also want to increase the amount.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Last time you made an ask for additional, we asked to see the budget of the previous year. I don't think we've seen previous year's budget wasn't included in here.
I can definitely get that sent over to you like we did last year.
Yeah, we did last year the same
Yes,
way
yeah.
afterward.
Yes.
Okay, and I guess I'd like to ask chairperson of the committee, if we could get a history of the donations that we've given over the last few years to Chamber of Commerce and Main Street Ravenna, because we've gone through a period where we've upped $15,000 one year, and then a year or two might have gone by, and we upped it again. I'd just like us, as part of the information we need, to see when we increase. You know, we went from 15 to 30. That was a couple years ago.
Correct.
And did we only stay at 30 1 year, or has it been 2 years now that we've been at 30?
I think it's just
It was
been
25
1
and
year.
then it was
Just
30.
one
Yeah, so 1 year. So this is an ask in a consecutive year. So those types of information we would like to look at as we go through making the decision on this. Thank you.
And we
And
are-
again, thank you for the report. great things going on.
It's
Appreciate it.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting. And I just want to, if I could just introduce my board really, or the people that are here for my board too, really quickly. Sure. Do you mind? Yeah. Okay. Matt Farrell, board president. Tiffany Jones, who is the vice president. Cheryl Wood, who's no stranger. She's a new board member. Christy Hune, who is our treasurer. You guys met Rod and Mark. We got Susie Kay, who has been a board member for 3 or 4 years. And then Molly Halliday with 717 Credit Union, and she is our secretary. So definitely couldn't do any of this without them too.
So before, we entertain any more questions, I just want to say that any information that you could get us possibly before our meeting on the 23rd, is that the right date? I'm looking at
Yes.
Chelsea.
Yep. Yes,
Would be
that's
very
it.
helpful because we will be discussing it then. So if you're able to get that information
I
before
should
then,
be able to get it to you
is helpful.
tomorrow. That was a complete oversight on,
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. So my apologies, but yeah, I can definitely get that to you.
Tyler, do you have questions?
I do. So how long have you been with the chamber?
10.5 years.
Long time.
Yeah.
And how long has the chamber been a functioning entity in Ravenna?
It functioning? Oh, goodness. A long time. Longer than me, but.
Because I was just wondering for that history, because we were talking a lot about like using data for decision making and things, and I was kind of wondering for the businesses that are members of the chamber. When you said 10 years is a long time, and I've even in my time living in Ravenna, I've seen a lot of businesses come and go too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious though, is for the data for the companies that don't quite make it and they end up going under or closing,
Mm-hmm.
do you contact those folks and say, hey, what was try to root cause out, like what was the real biggest thing that really was an obstacle to you maintaining your business in Ravenna, or even for businesses that move? Like, are we evaluating and capturing data about those lost opportunities, or figuring out what is an actual a ranked root cause list to go, what is the biggest obstacle for businesses thriving in Ravenna, if not surviving?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely communications. I mean, usually, irregardless of if somebody is a member or not, normally what I do is, as long as I know, a lot of times, there's times that I don't even know that there's a new business, potentially, just, So if I know, I definitely go out and make a visit to them, talk to them, offer ribbon cutting, as well as, social media, Facebook Live, what have you, just to try to get things started. And then usually, if something hasn't, a lot of times it's been just, truthfully, I really wish that we had more with our landlords. I really wish that there was more of a questioning or an interview type process, like how
Like an
is
exit
this?
interview, right?
Yeah, because I think that a lot of times, to be honest, they want to fill that spot. And it doesn't get that opportunity for us to even meet with them 100% one-on-one. It just, they're there, they're not there one day, they're there the next. And so without that, that is something that I would love to see happen, is where we can have a process to actually coach them or work them through that entire process so that they are set up for success. But as far as anybody that has closed down or that I knew that was closing down, yeah, definitely a lot of times it is personal. It's more personal or financial issues, stuff like that.
Brian, have you been able to work at all with our economic development director, since the two kind of go hand in hand? I would think as far as coming up with availability that you might know, and if people reach out to him, as far as I know a lot of his stuff he works on as bigger businesses, but do you ever get referrals or anything like that?
I have not gotten any referrals to date, maybe a couple here and there, but I will say that Dennis and I have, he actually is a liaison for the city, representing the city on our board now, as well as we do have plans. Something that I had wanted to talk to him about is the mayor, myself, and Brad Earhart used to go out to the manufacturers, the bigger businesses, and have those sit-down conversations That stopped once the economic development director came in, because Brad had HIMCO, and we typically were not part of that. But I've desperately been wanting to get back into that and to get out into those larger companies so that we can build those relationships even up. And so Dennis and I are working out a plan of going out and visiting them on our own, basis. So
Yeah.
there's definitely some movement by far going
Good.
forward there.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay.
Can I answer your question a little bit further? So you kind of asked, what are some of the reasons businesses are struggling here?
Just to clarify, I asked if the chamber was collecting data and retaining that on businesses and
Yeah.
its members
So-
that closed and what those reasons were, and if it was a ranked list that they could use that to make decisions with. And that wasn't quite answered yet, so I appreciate you following up.
Yeah, so a lot of the answers I get are, Ryan mentioned finance and stuff, and we here have a lot of very small businesses, so undercapitalization is a big issue, right? So a lot of businesses come into town, they get set up, but they're not prepared to pay their bills for 2 years or even a year, right? So undercapitalization is a big problem. Parking is a big problem. And I would also say engagement with the community for new businesses is hard. And there's a myriad of reasons, I'm sure we could go into that, but those are probably 3 of the top 5 or 6 I hear a lot.
Okay, and I appreciate that that's anecdotal and experience, and it's guiding to some degree, but I would like to see data on that personally, because if you don't, I believe Edward Deming's attributed to the quote, it's like, in God we trust, but all else bring data. He never actually said it, but I still believe that data is a really good thing to guide on. So if you are able to start capturing that if you haven't been before, and just like, and one good thing that might be an easy way to grab that is if they don't renew as a member of the chamber, that, like, and you're comparing like last year's list to New Year's for like, did they actually like pay their dues and stuff like that. So if they're not paying dues or if they don't show up, that's a great way to say, hey, this is a trigger to say, I need to reach out and have that conversation.
Yes, and Ryan does do that quite a bit.
And actually, the board of directors too, or the board members are actually making those phone calls as well. And that's part of the strategic planning that we've been doing is getting our board members, because a lot of times people probably get tired of hearing from me and seeing me. And so it definitely helps to have our another name, another face, another reach out, another touch a person to reach out to. And also within that being said, they're actually calling to past members, but also members that haven't, or anybody that hadn't been a member within the time that I've been there, that is still up and running, and also inviting them to like our coffee talks, like making sure that we're putting forth those efforts to re-engage and bring them to the table.
Good methods too.
And I think just to your point, we depend a lot on Ryan's brain because she's been here for 10 years. So we do have a lot of that anecdotal data. So could we maintain a better database? For sure. And I think that that's, a good point. And I think that's part of our strategic planning and our efforts to kind of go forward and move forward. So that's just a great recommendation. But I do think that a lot of that data is, we just kind of know it's kept in her brain. And after 10 years, we're used to being able to depend on that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I did have one last question for you. You said that for the incubation program that it was 100% successful. What is your tangible definition of success? Like, what thresholds does the business, a new business, have to achieve to be considered a success in that program, or is it entirely subjective?
Right now, it's realistically getting them the opportunity to see if they can make a go of it, and getting them to potentially feel secure enough on their own through marketing and through, feeling like financially that they can afford to open up a storefront. And that's where the success has come from.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions and comments, if that's okay. So, first of all, the boring stuff, the numbers. How much does it cost to become a member of the chamber?
We actually just redid that this year as well. But just to be like an independent individual, it's $175 a year. We do have tiers as well as by number of employees.
Okay, so the businesses, that's a different structure. So that was the follow-up question, is how often you review the membership fees?
Yeah,
Every year?
Yeah, every year. We just did it. We were delayed on it, and that's another reason why we were a little pushed back with coming to the city, with getting our strategic planning off the ground.
So as with my other colleagues, I mean, this is a nice, really nice presentation. Thank you for sending it last night, too. So I had a chance to look at that. You guys do a lot of great stuff over there. I know my husband's already been in the sports place. He's a card collector, so
Awesome.
if somebody came in there asking about cars, it was probably him. But I mean, I really appreciate everything that you do. And every time I jump on one of your Facebook Lives, there's just so many people that are watching and engaging with our community. So I think that you do a lot to be proud of.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Does anybody from council have any additional questions? Does anyone from the audience have anything they'd like to add or have any questions? Yeah, come on up.
So just to kind of tag on a little bit to what Ryan was saying, my previous position before I decided, I like to say I'm a recovering record album, collector. But I worked at Bounce Innovation Hub, and I had a senior position there, and that's an incubator. And I got to say, it was disappointing what was going on there, which is one of the reasons I'm no longer there. The incubator that started here, it's small, obviously. It's not, there's not huge grant, there's no grants or anything like that. But I got to tell you, you feel a difference. And, small business is really where things are coming at, I think, a lot in our economy. So many people age 55 and older are getting, laid off, downsized, whatever, but they're still very vital. They're looking to start businesses. They need that, even that simple little connection. I saw one of Ryan's Facebook Lives, and I said, you know what? I've been thinking about this for a while. Let me check into it. I live in Streetsboro. We don't have that there. I've had many people in council come up to me and go, why did you do it there? And I said, because the infrastructure for me to at least be able to succeed. There's no guarantee. I've done 2 other entrepreneurial things in my life and have done okay with those. There's no guarantee you're going to succeed. But to be able to have some people who are just going to sit there and go, okay, let me give you a start. And that's what you want. I think, like for me, one of the cool things is I'm not just looking at people around here from Ravenna as my customers. I'm bringing people from Cleveland, Akron. I had people from Dover and New Philadelphia come up. I do a lot with marketing, and so I'm bringing a lot of people that normally wouldn't necessarily come to the city in. And I think that's kind of a key point with a lot of businesses that are starting up is not just the citizens local, which are very important, but how do you reach other citizens to come here and see what the town has to offer? So I do hope, you continue to support that. I'm excited about getting a new space and going. I'm scared to death as well. But, you plan as much as you can, and you look for good people and good networking and good connections. So I really am impressed with what the Chamber has done, and that's why I came here to do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, Mr. Flauhaus, I know you from Streetsboro, so I know you have an impressive background. I mean, it's not very often that somebody comes locally that has the national recognition that you do. I know that you've worked with major artists, from country artists in Nashville. And
I was Amy Grant's marketing person for several years.
I remember.
I got a lot of bands help to get signed to national labels.
And I know you do a lot with PR with different businesses, but then I think you were also in charge of the 50th anniversary, the commemoration for the Kent State. Although COVID kind of got in the way of a lot of things.
2.5 years of really good works, and COVID canceled all of it at the last minute. But yes, I have worked with the president down there, and then even in between that, I was in charge of all marketing and communications at the Cleveland School District.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of varied background in a lot
of different things.
Well, I'm very proud that you are here.
I'm excited to be here, and come and buy an album sometime. Okay?
Welcome to Ravenna.
Yeah, when I got his phone call and I found out about him, I'm like, oh, you're coming. You're staying here. And just so you know too, if in case anybody saw the Easter Bunny video, Facebook Live,
Oh, really?
he was the Easter
Don't
Bunny.
ruin it for me.
I'm
don't wanna
sorry.
know.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he was an excellent Easter Bunny. So, all right. Anything else?
Yep, is there
I
anything?
just want to thank you for bringing these newer business owners and for their comments that they made.
No, absolutely. And I thought it was important. And again, it's something that Matt and I had talked about for years, and we just simplified it, and it has been successful, and we're looking to keep on keeping on. So, filling up more storefronts. So.
All right, so thank you so much. If we don't have anything else, I'm gonna end my meeting at, what time is it? 8:04 PM.
Okay.
And then we will be, restarting it again on the 23rd to have additional conversation to be able to address the other things that are on the agenda.
What time?
I think it was
5:30.
5:30?
Okay, we'll have to end by 6.
Okay, if we have to keep chatting,
We can always reconvene later.
we got it.
Is it a committee meeting? It's a committee meeting that's meeting?
It's gonna be a
It's
committee meeting at
of the whole?
5:30, yep.
Not committee of the whole?
No,
Committee
committee.
of the whole will be at 6, but the first item on the agenda will be the
Christina,
mayor's State of the City address.
Is this going to move forward, or are we keeping this in your committee? What are we
I
decided?
don't know, I think that's up to,
It sounds like there's some information you're waiting to
I
receive.
think we need to
so-
get the rest of the information, and I think we could probably make that decision and have further discussion. My plan is for us to be able to have further discussion about both Main Street and Chamber, once we get all that information, when we meet again in 2 weeks.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks.
Christina, historically, when we had the last discussion of the allocation of the money to these groups, did the discussion take place in committee of the whole? Or
No.
it was?
It was committee.
It was.
I mean, both, obviously, we do have,
I mean, we have to-
whatever's passed
The committee
on,
has to decide to move it forward.
but
and
the
then-
amounts were set at the committee regular.
I guess at the early part of the discussion, I think it would be important for everyone to have voice
Oh, 100%.
during those times, so, okay.
Agreed.
Yes, thank you.
All right,
Would you like to adjourn?
already
formally, Or did the time? Okay.
I did, and we kept talking, and it's okay. I'm adjourning again. Yeah.
Making sure we're staying on where I'm at now. Okay, it is 8:06, and I'm going to start, I'm only a half hour or so behind. Start with public health and safety. I'm going to go ahead and I have one item on the agenda. This one should be pretty quick and easy. So it's for the second school resource officer. There's been a change. I'm going to go ahead and let Jake explain this. Nothing major, we're just changing individuals.
Patrolman Waldeck decided that the school resource officer wasn't for her. Chase Feist stepped up and said he would be willing to try it, and so far has enjoyed it. So we had to change the contract because the actual first contract had Heather's name in it. So we had to take Heather off and sign a new contract that has Chase's name in it.
So it's just changing out the name. Heather's no longer going to do it, and it's pretty simple. So again, I'm happy that, Chase is excited doing it. He likes it, and the position was needed. So Tyler and Matt, are you okay with just going ahead and moving this forward? Okay.
Ms. Michael's question, in the contract also, it listed the, per diem rate. Is the rate for both of them the same, or is that something that ends up needed to be changed also?
It was redone. I think Tammy redid the numbers.
Okay, so it included the redoing the numbers, okay.
The same anyways. or
Yes.
nearly close.
That's what I
Was she at
thought.
the middle school?
They weren't
so.
assigned to
Is this for the middle school, or are they not assigned to a certain?
They're not assigned right now,
Okay.
being that Chase is newer. Patrolman Lincoln wants to go back and forth until they get more established.
Yeah, So, yeah, it's, like I said, right now, it's literally just a name change, and they'll decide accordingly. Okay, with that, okay, going forward, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Wait, is there management updates? Anything updating? Jake, is there anything you'd like to say?
Jake,
No, thank you.
tell them about the success you had when you had to person that was going to commit suicide.
We did have an incident where
Okay.
a male barricaded himself in his bathroom after he told his wife he was going to commit suicide. We were able to handle that exclusively with just Ravenna Police Department, which we had our drone, we had 2 drone operators on scene. We had a smaller drone that we were able to put up the stairs and actually position in front of the door and set it down on the ground. So we had constant contact with the door while we tried to talk to him through the walls. Then we had a drone on the outside window in case something would have happened where he had the blinds closed, but if something would happen where they came down, we would have had access to the outside. We were able to talk him down. He came out, he was affected by whatever he took, and the squad was able to transport him to the hospital. So without any incident or calling in the SWAT team, we were able to handle it by ourselves.
With the drones?
With the drones.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
I have to say, our police department does an amazing job, as well as our other safety forces, but they all seem to work well together. So with this technology that we have, it's cutting edge. Unlike some of the other departments, we're pretty fortunate. Okay, no management, other updates. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. It's 8:10, and that's all.
I believe Streets and Sidewalks is next.
All right. It's listed as next.
8:10, I will call Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting to order. 3 things on the agenda this evening. Pretty straightforward. The first item is to allow the mayor to advertise for bids for a project on King Street. Paul or Tim, you got any questions on that?
No,
project?
no.
We'll move that item forward. Next item is also allowing to advertise for bids for our annual pavement marking program. Again, pretty straightforward. They update stop bars, school signs, yellow lines, all that good stuff.
Is that the same company that's been doing it for the
Lois
last?
is going out to bid.
Okay.
so, Yeah.
No questions.
We'll go ahead and move that item forward as well. And then the last item, we had a business owner approach our service director in regard to putting up some 30-minute parking signs in front of the business. I started looking around downtown, and we actually have those signs in other areas of downtown. That would just help accommodate individuals that are looking for long-term parking, but also help out the businesses that have patrons that just need to run in and maybe spend 10, 15, 20 minutes in the store, pick something up, look around. So me personally, I don't have any issues with this. It's something that's been done in the past, and it has the potential to help out our business owners with more individuals being able to get in and out of the storefronts if they can find parking spots on a more regular basis.
I have a question. Oh, sorry, I'm not on the committee.
Go ahead.
That's okay, you are in the committee, I'm not.
I thought this was a fascinating request when we saw it for the business owner to ask for the 2 spots. At first blush, I thought, wow, that's an interesting ask. Then I thought, well, how many others do we have downtown? And is it a few? Is it a lot? And have we given them just when someone asks, or are there criteria that we apply to who would get the spots. Because as I began to think about it too, is depending on the mix of businesses that are nearby, I'll just take the winery, for example, that's just 2 doors down or 3 doors down. If they have a client, a customer that's parking in that 30-minute spot, then they're having to move. So I don't know. Those are just some of the things that I was thinking about.
Well, hopefully it would deter the individual that knows they're going to be in a business for more than a half hour from parking there.
Yes.
And allow the individuals, the ones that are going to be in and out quickly, like Pop, maybe the ice cream store,
But-
the bookstore, places that you're not going to spend quite as much time in.
Yeah.
It allows,
How many do we have downtown?
the exact number, I'm not sure, but I've seen
10,
several-
20?
A few of them.
I don't think there's
I
20.
know since I've been on council and been in charge of streets and sidewalks, we have not dedicated any 30-minute parking spots. So the ones that are in downtown right now, been there for quite a while.
Because you've been on for 12 years?
Yes.
Okay.
But the big question is, who's going to enforce it? We have no ticket meter person. How are you going to say this person, unless you go out and mark that tire and you're watching it, it's going to be he said, she said, unless the police are going to pay attention to this, it's really irrelevant.
Well, yeah, they're not being
I mean,
surveyed. You just hope that people have the common courtesy to follow the rules and regulations. Does everybody? No. If they're there for 35 minutes, should we give them a ticket? No. It's just the understanding that there are spots for more of a quick visit to a storefront downtown.
So the spirit's more of encouraging compliance rather than
Yes.
enforcing it. But one question that I do have is, have we considered that by adding more 30-minute stops, 30-minute parking spots, that might disenfranchise some people that live in the buildings above these storefronts, that it might be harder for them to have parking, since a lot of these buildings existed before, like, parking requirements
They are not allowed to
were-
park on Main Street as it is. Residents are not allowed.
There's 2-hour parking all the way down through downtown.
That's what I wanted to
But
bring up.
not enforced, but.
Because these questions about, how do we manage this or whatever, the only ordinance I can find is ordinance 45219, parking in the central business district, which allows parking for 2 hours. So I don't know that these signs, just like no parking.
Yeah,
on
I was just going to say,
streets,
no parking on
I don't
streets.
think
No
that
one
we
will-
could enforce them even if we had somebody giving out tickets. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we have anything that that legally, legally we can enforce parking for 30 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean I'm opposed to these signs, because I think they do have that psychological impact. And I think if it helps the store owners downtown, I'm all for it.
Maybe word it different, because if you can't put a sign up, no parking on this side of the street because it's not an ordinance, then how can you legally put no parking 30 minutes? It's like the same concept, because no one's going to do anything.
Well, it's actually, the
30
signs
minutes
that are up there
express.
now are labeled express parking, 30-minute limit. So it's not a no parking, it's just it's a
And we already have some.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Right, and we already have
We already have
them.
some.
Because we all know we don't have anybody that really goes around and enforces any of the parking unless they're called upon
To remediate a situation.
to remediate a situation or a very blatant, long-term violation. So, yeah, it's just a suggestion to try and help out some of the local business owners. Have a mix of long-term and short-term parking. Is it enforced? No. Can it be enforced? Definitely go that route, but,
You'd have to add an ordinance.
yeah, so it's just.
I don't mean to belabor it, and I'm not asking these questions to lead us in one direction or the other. I just want us to examine the issue. When we've given these in the past of these 30-minute spots, I wonder if we got input from business owners that were near those spots, whether or not that they were interested in it. Because if we look at where those 2 spots are, they're two of the spots that are closest to Guido's, and nobody's going into Guido's to eat in less than 30 minutes. And so Guido's would possibly be saying, these are some of our prime spots. Just another thing to think about. I don't
But if
know.
I'm going into Guido's to pick up my carryout, I could utilize that
right.
spot to be able to run in and grab my
Okay.
pizza and leave.
Yeah.
They already have
Yeah.
They do.
Well, I mean, there might be some use cases or like for each business, what is your average customer turnaround time? I mean, there's something to consider because if you have a cluster of businesses that turn tables or whatever it is quickly, it makes more sense to have that meet
Like
that need.
one-
But if you have like longer terms, like a lawyer's office, you're probably not going to be in there for at least 15 minutes.
I'm trying to remember where I saw, I think one of the signs that I saw was like in front of a bank. You know, somewhere you may just need to to zip
there's some
into
in
a
front of
withdrawal
Chase,
or a
yeah.
deposit, usually less than a 30-minute.
And those could
And
be on
again, it's
private
just-
property too, I don't know. It could be the private property owned by the bank, depending upon where the bank is located.
These were on downtown
Oh,
Main
okay.
Street.
Those
These
Yeah.
signs that I saw were right on.
No, but you do see some,
But
like in
yes, they do
in
have
private property,
restricted on,
yeah.
on their own personal parking lots, yes. I think it would benefit, benefit the owners to, again, to have some short-term and some long-term parking.
I could see one, but not two. I think two, for that purpose, because there are places around there, like the attorney, that would require it longer, and they can't park in the back. And people that do come from out of town don't know that it's not enforced, and they panic. Especially ones going to the courthouse that are looking for a place to park. They really get afraid that they're gonna get a ticket.
Or they just park in the city parking right in front of this
If you
building.
start looking for the signs, they're actually, it's a white sign. It has a green outline with green lettering,
Yeah.
express parking, 30 minutes. And then it's actually, the ones I've seen are in between two spots, and the sign has two arrows dedicated. So it's one sign dedicating two spots, but the ones that I've seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there are two. Yeah.
There's
You
two
start
of them on the
looking
far
around,
left.
You'll
Yeah.
see them,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I think the concept is good, but the drawback is, I know we have a lot of things that they're either not enforced or they're unable to be enforced, and some of them, they're unable to be enforced because of not enough employees, I'll say, to enforce these things.
And
So
we
the
understand
concept is
that.
good, and the way that it worked out a long time ago as far as enforcing it, this goes back a long time when they were, I'll say, meter maids, because there was one, then when one left, another one was hired later. And that was the only way to really track that.
And again, it's not something that we're gonna push to be enforced. It's more of just a, hey, please be courteous.
A courtesy.
30
yeah.
minutes parking here, because we have businesses that require, short-term parking.
And I know there's,
And I understand it's not gonna be enforced. I mean, there's nothing we can do about that unless we wanna really dig into it.
I think we could also refer part of some expanded conversation regarding parking as part of like comprehensive plan components.
I believe me,
because
I'm digging through it as you're talking.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that even like parking's one thing, but there are a lot of people that utilize rideshare services, and there are some municipalities that even have like little carved out sections, like here's where your Uber will wait for you, or your whatever, pick a service that does it. But that way, they're not like trying to just put themselves anywhere in front of a business that might obstruct traffic or, flow of even pedestrians and things like that. So it's like allocating a space for the services so they're not disruptive to other things. But that might be something we could add to that too, if we wanted to.
Amy and I live on a street where they have pulled up these, there's an understanding you park on one side, but now since there's not an ordinance attached, people are parking down both sides of the street. And as much as I enjoy weaving down my street and knowing that if an emergency vehicle needed to get through at certain times, it would be very difficult to do so. I think those are like more of a priority than this. I think the downtown, it's just the parking, I'll use the word scarce. Honestly, I think there's too many of these signs already down there, these 30-minute parking limit ones. And I don't know about adding any more without like looking at, something a little bit more comprehensively citywide and.
But you never see a 30-minute parking unattended. You don't see those vacant all day long. They're always full.
I do. I'm afraid to park sometimes in the one out here.
I mean, and
'Cause
as
I
Matt's
feel-
saying, it's somewhat suggested. I believe every block has one sign posted.
Like there's at least one somewhere.
Just same with handicap. There's one handicap spot or two.
Well, you have to by
generally
law.
in each block, right? But the parking spots are always full, no matter how they're signed. It could say don't park, and they probably would still park there.
Now, see, my logic is when I go past that one out here, I'm like, the police station's right there, so I'm not gonna roll the dice.
So then you just go park in the 15-minute one?
I go park behind the building. I go park on the other side, back.
Well, just so you know, if they issue you a ticket, it's not valid. Now you know. Sorry, Jake.
Matt, I know this is not my committee, but I think it would be great to have at least one or two spots over in that area.
I don't believe there's any current
There's not.
30-minute parking on that block
There's not.
in front of those storefronts at this time.
Books a Go-Go?
From there down to the, still the toy.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
toy connection.
Yeah, I don't believe there's one on that block either. Not on that side. Two-hour park.
So you're saying from the bookstore, new bookstore, down to Meridian Street?
Yes.
So who's going to enforce the car that sits there 24 hours, 7 days a week? Who's going to do that now?
Well, if it's a
And
nuisance.
I guess that comes back to who's going to enforce any of this? There's plenty of parking in downtown Ravenna. You just have to be not lazy enough. You have to be able to walk because the county has a complete 200 or 300 spots over there at Riddle Avenue. That's where the pickup and the drop off for Ubers should be. Not carve out another spot that people can't park in downtown because we don't have.
Oh, no,
enough.
we're not saying that, yeah.
But where else would you put it? Over there would be a great place. But, or some people that work in insurance businesses here that park right in front of it all day long, 8 hours a day, and for years.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it's a cheap
So-
thing.
so
I don't
we're-
have any problem. I don't have any problem with put it up.
Yeah, so
But it's maybe that guy will be happy. They'll be happy, but I don't think they will because I don't think it'll make any difference because, it's cheap to put a sign up. Yeah, I mean.
Some
You know,
people do
it may
comply.
deter the person that's parking there all day because they work in that building from parking there. You just don't know. It can go either way. We all know that, so.
Yeah, okay.
Well, even though it's not enforced, the police could put like a warning, right? Say, hey, you're parking at a 30-minute thing if they're there all day. Just as a notice, that might get their attention.
I believe The Simpsons had there was a scene in it where Lisa was like going into it's like do not enter, and it was on a sign, and it says like on the sign underneath of that one said I'm a sign, not a cop. So, I mean it's a discretionary thing at that point, but some people do comply with signs, and it does show that we're trying to at least work with the businesses to say hey we're trying to accommodate your needs.
So I think at this point, we'll move this item forward and we'll see what happens at committee of the whole.
Sounds like a plan.
Also wanted to, Mr. Dudek brought some things to attention with the rains again we had last week. No, not so much as basements and homes flooding. This time he found some ditches and whatnot that had not been probably cleaned out since last fall. You can't get to everything before the snow falls, so just so on record, we'll be working with the street department to try to identify some of those areas because ditches are flooding, flowing across roads and up into people's yards. So that's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to bring that because it was brought to my attention. And it's something I'll be talking with Jason and the street department about. We have a management update.
No.
No. 8:28, I will adjourn Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting.
All right, I'll start the Utility Committee at 8:28. First one on the agenda is an emergency wastewater treatment plant water line repair and replacement.
In your space.
It's a 4-inch line at the west end of the department. There's a bid here from, a price from Helm Ling Excavating. Their price for this project is $71,700.
Anything engineering or service would like to add?
All I would add is, as Bill Brigant had stated, if you would put a dot on his property where the worst place for a water leak would be, that's exactly where this was. It was literally underneath the fuel tank, up against a building, surrounded by a bunch of stuff that they didn't know was there over 100-some years of expansion. So, and it was minus 14 degrees or something one day they were working. So it obviously is slow.
That sounds like the full extent of Murphy's Law was in effect.
It was terrible.
So unfortunately, we negotiated a little bit with the contractor, but price is a price.
And I know this contractor has been in business for several decades.
Is this contractor also like standard license, bonded and insured?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they have the appropriate equipment needed to do a job of this caliber.
I'm good to move this forward if there's no further
The
questions.
same day, there was another contractor working for the street department fixing a water leak while our street department was working on another water leak. So at that day, we had three contractors. Three contractors, okay. Yeah, that was a rough week.
Yeah, this company has very, very big equipment when needed.
Okay.
Carmen, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I think we need to move this forward to,
Okay, thank you. The next item is is an emergency for the water treatment plant for the electrical that we had spoken about recently. And for the electrical panels, these panels were installed when the water treatment plant was built back in, I believe it was 83. These have overextended their lifespan. These are on, I'll say, borrowed time. I have seen these myself. If you look at it just by looks, they look good, but they're on borrowed time.
This is the same item that we were discussing last month. We just have the quote now, correct?
Pardon?
This is the same item we discussed last month. We just have the quote now, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. We have the scope of work with the quote in there.
Thank you.
I think this is like a ticking time bomb situation, isn't it, with the safety
Yes, it
Yes.
is.
with this?
Yes,
So
it is.
I wouldn't see any reason to delay this any further.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm good to move this forward as well,
we-
given no further. Go ahead.
We plan on having a special meeting following the committee of the whole. Well, one item will be for the budget. If it's that much of an emergency, we could have I think it's on a third reading that night at the special, or we could wait until April.
Yeah,
Is-
I prefer to
is
get
it-
this on the
I
agenda
wouldn't, I
faster.
wouldn't be in favor of waiting.
My,
If we could do it as a special, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
yes, just from my experience and knowing this, it would be better not to wait till April.
Okay, so we'll do that.
Okay, great. Yeah, that'll be in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Then I will ask for a management update for any comments that you have.
Oh.
Okay, wow, okay, thank you. All right, I will adjourn this utility committee at 8:33.
All right, at 8:33, I will call to order the Finance Committee. We only have a couple of items on the agenda, and given the late hour, I don't want to start a huge discussion. The first item is to talk about possible uses, how we might want to budget our new tax revenue from cannabis sales, adult cannabis sales. And they apparently keep going up.
Correct.
I had, given the amount of money we'd gotten, I think in December, I had averaged it out about 27,000 a month. In January, we received 29, and in February, I think it was 32.
We received 32,000, yeah.
So
Valentine's Day.
That was a question that I had, because it looks like the estimate for next year was like 850,000 or?
Well, it couldn't be that high.
That was for this year to include the special one-time
Oh, okay.
revenue that
included
we got
last year.
in. That was
I-
just-
I
that
had
was just
originally-
adjusting.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
no.
that's where that number came from, that 850,000.
Correct.
Not even half that
That
amount.
includes the 441,000
Gotcha.
that we got.
Yeah. I mean, if things keep going up, I don't know, but I would estimate it between 300,000 and 400,000 a year.
So our options are looking at designating it to a certain fund versus just throwing it into the general fund, or?
I would like to suggest we not just do that, because we have an opportunity, right? And
Yes.
we don't usually have an opportunity with at least this amount of money on a regular basis coming in. There are multiple ideas. I would like to think that maybe we could do multiple things as well. We don't have to designate it all for one particular purpose. But some ideas, and these are not carved in stone, these are not even suggestions, they're just things to think about. We could dedicate a certain amount of it to put away in anticipation of building something like a new Parks and Rec facility. You know, we're facing this issue right now with the safety buildings in City Hall, with we don't have a choice, having to ask our residents to pay more money in income tax, because there's simply no way we can afford to do it any other way. And we could start putting money away for that, but again, it's gonna take so long. So if we wanna think, you know, strategically, at least some of that money maybe could be set aside. And then when we do get ready to build a new facility, we'll have money. Maybe we won't need to ask for as much, or maybe we won't need to ask for anything as far as a new income tax. We could use it for one-time funding, you know, and whatever that could be, it could be a suggestion every year from our department heads. You know, what's something you could spend with one-time money? We could use it to enhance our facilities at, you know, Sunbow. So there's a lot of things we could do with this, and I think that's an excellent problem to have at this stage in our development.
What about funding the Chamber and Main Street Ravenna?
That could be another,
I mean, those are two organizations that have come to us asking for money.
yeah, we could portion out some of it.
No,
Now-
not all that money, just what they're asking.
Yeah, right.
No. Divide it up.
So, and we could certainly ask for input from our residents. What would they like us to see us do with the money? And there's a suggestion on, coming up.
I have a suggestion.
Oh,
I just
okay.
thought that maybe, since there's a young lady over there that takes care of all the money, make sure that you ask her what is in need.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
absolutely.
Because you have your finger on the pulse of what makes this run.
Yes, absolutely.
And before we go into all those other things, make her make up a list of where we could be in trouble here we
Yep.
need money here and so forth for the next year.
Thanks. With Sumbo having the potential of being a moneymaker and bringing money into the community and bringing people in our community, that definitely should be on the list of priorities that we see funding go there as well as, our top three, because that can be a lot of money brought in with some of the plans that Chris has going on right now. So I think that's important. Also, I'd like to continue to make sure that we have a beautification fund continuing for our downtown, things that are going to be aesthetically beautiful in our downtown, because in the past, some of that stuff was not up to date or missed. And I think that says a lot. Also, at one point it was talked about helping some of our building owners. I don't know if that ever got moved on or what happened with that, but I still think that, should be a precedence, whether, we have an opportunity to help clean up some of these buildings and, keep that downtown viable and aesthetically beautiful as it is. So
I have a question for Tammy. This is a really, I guess, it's a detailed question. So the city, and I know from last year's State of the City address, the mayor said we went from a single A to a double A bond rating, correct? What is holding us back from a triple A bond rating that we could strategically use this money to sort of put us on track for that top tier bond rating?
I don't know what would get us there. It took us a lot to get that two-tier jump. But I can find out what we could do to help with that. The bond rating agency is always looking at that. We get rated every year. So I'll look at the criteria, and I will get back to you on that.
Because I would like to know that, because that would really help if we go to finance projects. We are going to inherently be in a better position with a AAA bond rating. And I'm going to assume there's going to be certain requirements about what's in reserve.
Correct.
And how we do those things. And thank you for putting this on the agenda, because I'm not a fan of having this kind of money be just sitting in our general fund. I think that the community needs to see the payoff for some it might be enjoying, for others it's tolerating a dispensary. And, depending where you're at on the issue, but I think to come up with a way where we can split up the money, which I think is a great idea too. And by the way, I talk about this in my government classroom, and we looked it up, and by far, Ravenna is getting more than anywhere else I know. Kent got about $200,000 less on that payout. And then, because I teach in Youngstown, we looked it up in Youngstown, and they only got like a $300,000 back payment. So we are making more than some big municipalities. And so I think that it's great to do something that's going to get us to a higher bond rating, and then also get this out of our general fund, because I don't want to see this going towards something just like wages and salaries, just something that is more visible and permanent, even if it is doing more for streets and sidewalks. And I know that there's a levy that funds that, but my God, there is a need. You walk anywhere in the city or drive around, it'd be apparent. I think a lot of people like those highly visible projects or infrastructure.
Yep, we do have a lot of capital projects coming that are going to need a lot of attention. So I think that's one of the biggest things.
So that's my thought. I would like to know what we would need to show the state to make us, to put us in a good position to increase to the highest level of our, of
Yeah,
the
that's an
bond
easy
rating.
one. Yep, I'll get you some information.
Maravich.
Yeah, I just had an idea, just have them, so really spitballing here. So hearing what's out there, I see that there might be some compromise potential here. So we could have, because we don't know exactly how much we're going to get each month, but we can generally assume that it may be more than $25,000 on an ongoing basis. So what we might want to do is carve out like a fixed dollar amount for going towards certain things, and then whatever is left after our budgeted amount, saying this, if we want to put money towards making sure downtown's beautified, well, it has resources for like those capital improvements of making those the small things that you don't always prioritize, but they're meaningful in the long run. But once we have those dollar amounts budgeted out, whatever is excess, we could use for what you could call something like a waterfall fund, where like each month of the year, whatever that excess is, that amount of money gets attributed towards a strategic project that needs some type of thing to help get over that hump for its financial goal. So that could be something that we entertain as well, where we allocate a fixed amount, and then the variable amount, that's whatever happens to come in, could go towards other itemized strategic projects that are just kind of calendared out, you know?
I like the
way-
idea of
the way
percentage.
Council
Yeah,
speakers
I
too.
think there's multiple ways we could carve it up, whether it's, and I think it really depends on what the money is designated for. It may be necessary to carve out a specific dollar amount if we're planning, hey, by this time, we'll have saved up this amount of money.
Yeah, define
Then,
funding goals.
And so, or we could just divide things up by whatever ideas resonate with council percentage-wise, or we could do a mixture. But I wasn't really planning, given the late hour, of coming up with these ideas, but just proposing that we do this. And so if everyone on council and if anybody listening from home or here in the room has ideas, feel free to forward them to whomever. And then I think we'll just continue the discussion at future finance committee meetings. And it may take a while to sort all this stuff out, but maybe we can come up with a viable plan. Does that sound like a way to go forward?
Sounds fine. The discussion that goes into this will have to include deciding where to divide the money up, like long-term projects, capital project, and then what projects fit in those spots if we do it that way. So it's a two-pronged discussion,
I agree.
not just a single-pronged discussion.
Yeah, it's going to get a little complicated, and it's not an infinite amount of money.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised after we come up with a few good ideas, what little is left over, so. But be thinking about it. And there, again, there's no deadline here. We're not moving anything forward. We're not taking any action. We're just making some strategic plans here. All right, so we'll move on. The next item is the 2026 permanent budget. Ms. Lawrence, if you could give us an overview of that.
Yeah,
And
so-
that will be something we'll consider at our special if it gets out of our committee.
Yeah, a quick rundown. I won't, I could keep you here probably for 2 hours if we really wanted to go through all the details, but the mayor, I'm sure, does not want me to do that. So this is really a large housekeeping item that the finance is in charge of every year. We met, Rob, the mayor, I, and Tim Content, and went over all of the line-by-line details. Some of the highlights I'm going to read real quick just to keep this pretty basic, but I do want to ask all of you, I sent out worksheets earlier today. Please go through, please look at notes. If you have any questions, no matter what it is, send me an email and I'll be glad to give you some more feedback. The projected revenues are at $33,111,740. That's a $1.9 million increase from the temporary budget, but a lot of that has to do with adding in the cannabis revenue and then our income tax revenue. It was actually up from 24 to 25 by 544,000. So I'm keeping those projections steady. We don't know where the economy's going, but for right now, I'm not projecting any larger increases than what we got last year. There was a JED reallocation that I'm doing between the 219 fund and the 836 fund, so that just boosts these budgets a little bit, but it really is just a reallocation. This is to move what we're putting in the 219 fund, just the custodial part of it, the 90% that goes to Rootstown and the JED, I'm moving out of that 219 fund. It's something that was required for our audit. And then the investment income is holding steady, so that's, we had projected that might go down this year, but right now I'm holding that steady as well. The expenditures are at $36,378,337. Those are primarily, as you could guess, have a lot to do with the wages, the new personnel, so that's a big part of it. There's also some big projects I put in there that Bob Finney gives me some of the biggest increases to put in the budget. So there's the King Street project that we just talked about tonight that we're bidding out. I go ahead and I put that in there because it's an OPWC project, so I can kind of guesstimate what needs to be put in, and I've got that in there. And then there's also a Cotton Corners project that Bob wants to do this year that I've put in there. The JED reallocations also boosted that number. I've also put in a $300,000 capital reserve that I'm trying to do every year for us that we've talked about. And then finally, the street garage renovations that we've been working on, I put another $200,000 in there. We're going to do some additional work on roof lentils or door lentils, the building itself. And the doors, Bob can speak to a little more about that, but these will be projects that will be bid out. So you will see these come to council again. Again, there's a lot of little detail in this budget, so if anybody wants to go through and pick apart little pieces, please feel free. Rob, if there's anything else you want to add?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I would encourage everyone to look at the attachments that were emailed to you earlier today. Are there any questions?
Did have one question for AMATs. For the dues for that one, is that based on like how many claims we file against it, or is that just based on a flat rate for how we pay those?
For which claims?
AMATS?
That's based on our population.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Can I bring up the grants that I just applied for real quick?
Sure, that would be
All right.
great.
So I applied for the three. The large one was for the new safety building.
Okay.
I really have no idea.
And that was applied where?
So that was through the 136th district.
Good.
It's basically Fed money, I
Oh,
believe.
the federal, okay, so the Community Project Fund.
Yes, yes. And then the other two were through the General Assembly.
Okay.
So I applied for a planning grant for the wastewater treatment plant headworks at a 1.25 million. So the general rule of thumb for engineering is somewhere between 10 and 15% is a design fee for construction. We already know construction's somewhere about 25 million. So if we can get half of it done, half of it planned. When I looked over the previous awarded projects, none of them seemed to be more than $1.5 million. So I certainly didn't want to dive in too far. We will have a 20% match if awarded. If not, we have a 100% match. So,
Right.
and then the other is, Chris Bundy and I spoke. I applied for a $100,000 planning grant for Sunbow. We don't know what we want and where to spend the money if we had $100,000. So hopefully, if we get awarded, we can at least get some stuff on paper and have some prices to accompany.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you're going to spend the 100,000 on?
He's
Well,
got a
it'll be-
bunch of things, yeah, he can spend
Well,
it
for
on.
For
Sunbow,
planning on the property.
yeah, the Parks and Recs Board is working on coming up with ideas for that too. So everything we come up with, we'll cross the hall and bother you, so.
Perfect. I would love to hand that off to you guys successfully. So we did similar with Osborne Park. Granted, it was only $10,000, but came up with a nice concept and something that we can utilize to apply for other grants with.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you for applying for those.
Thanks, Bob.
Let's hope we can strike gold with at
Hopefully,
least one of
hopefully
them.
we're successful with at least one of them.
Yeah, it would be great. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Mayor, do you have a management update for the Finance Committee?
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. In that case, at 8:52, I will adjourn the Finance